The milling and paving is us.
Why is it us? It's state
We
highway.
get reimbursed from the.
3 minutes.
Do we get reimbursed?
And it's just you
Yeah,
giving
but it's
council
not-
comments,
Why
not
can't you say how you want?
Is it 1 to 1?
yeah, just like
Okay, we're live and on air. Welcome everybody to tonight's Geneva City Council meeting, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I'll let the clerk take her place and then ask her to do the roll call.
Counselor Whitfield,
Here.
Counselor Morocco,
Here.
Counselor Petropoulos,
Here.
Counselor Gilat,
Here.
Counselor Grimaldi,
Here.
Counselor Peeler,
Here.
Counselor Lavin,
Ever present.
Counselor Brennan,
Here.
Mayor Valentino.
Here.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir. Counselor?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add a resolution to place a 6-month moratorium on all outstanding sidewalk-related code violations and to add a presentation by the Geneva Parks Commission.
We have a motion. I'd like a second. Counselor Morocco's a second. Any discussion on amending the agenda? Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Whitfield,
Aye.
Counselor Morocco,
Aye.
Counselor Petropoulos,
Aye.
Counselor Gilat,
Aye.
Counselor Grimaldi,
Nay.
Counselor Peeler,
Nay.
Counselor Lavin,
Aye.
Counselor Brennan,
Aye.
Mayor Valentino.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next is a presentation by the United Way, Alice Data. Not Alice as in a person, but Alice as in an acronym.
And
Welcome.
You're seeing Carrie come up. Carrie, I'm going to say her last name wrong.
That's okay. Carrie Book.
There you go. Carrie Book, who is with the United Way, who will let you know what Alice stands for. And there's also information on council members, but she'll let everyone know where they can see more about Alice.
Absolutely. So, hi everyone. Good evening. My name is Carrie Book. I'm the Senior Director of Corporate Giving and Strategic Partnerships with United Way of Greater Rochester and the Finger Lakes. I'm here today to talk to you about an acronym that we call ALICE. Yes, ALICE is not a person, but a story of our asset limited, income constrained, employed families, neighbors, people that live in our neighborhood that are working or have a fixed income but do not make enough to make ends meet. United Way started developing this platform probably about 12 years ago, and we've started to grow it across the country because what our real goal is to talk about poverty and families in need differently. The federal poverty level is a one-size-fits-nobody. It's the same whether you live in Geneva, Canandaigua, or California. The way that it's calculated hasn't been updated since the Truman era. Yes, they add it and change it every year, but the way that it's calculated and how they add family members is the same whether you're a household of 5 or 7, and it doesn't take into account who makes up that family. So a family of 7 could be elderly parents that are living with you, a working mom, and 4 children. And the federal poverty level does not consider that. Our ALICE data does. And the information that I have shared with the council is very specific to Ontario County. One thing that we are very fortunate to do is we can look at true costs in Ontario County and drill down and make a family budget that makes sense for the family. We can look at the makeup of the family, where they live, and truly understand what does it cost to live in the area. So the data that I have is Ontario County. Right now, the population, this is 2023 point-in-time data. It is census-based. We do have a local committee that vets the data every year. We have representatives from FLCC and local communities across the state that make sure that this data is accurate. So population 2023, 112,494 population, households 48,610 that is in Ontario County. Of that, 9% of the population is considered poverty. But when United Way talks about community need and the people that are in need, we also talk about the ALICE households, which is an additional 29% of our households. So that's 29 plus 9 that looks at how many families are struggling. And when I say struggling, a household budget in Ontario County for a family or a single adult living in Ontario County, just to make ends meet with household, the basic needs of housing, childcare, food, transportation, healthcare, technology, and taxes. We know we all pay taxes. A single adult needs to make $32,820 a year just to make ends meet. The federal poverty level is $14,580. So those single adults do not qualify for a lot of the needs and assistance that are out there. A family of 4, 2 adults, 1 infant, and 1 preschooler needs to make $103,512 just to make ends meet. The federal poverty level is $30,000 for a family of 4. So it's a $70,000 gap for those families to qualify for state and federal assistance and make ends meet. So these families are the ones that are really making hard decisions. COVID had really, shined a light on our families that are struggling, because our poverty families, the poverty situation is horrible, and we need to continue to help those families survive and thrive. But our ALICE families were the ones that all of a sudden lost jobs, and they didn't know how to navigate the system. They didn't know how to get access to services and get the supports that they need. But I thank you for allowing me to come today, because we need to talk about it. We need to raise awareness that it's our ALICE families that are really struggling to make ends meet, and how do we make some difference. So that's a lot about the data. I do also have the ability to break it down by zip code. So in the city of Geneva, 4,878 households, 42% of those are below the ALICE threshold. So that's poverty plus ALICE. And in the town of Geneva, 1,745 households, and 32% are below the ALICE threshold. So that's ALICE plus poverty. So that's who we considered in need. So a couple things that I would just like to be considered is United Way. We were fortunate enough to get a Ontario County ARPA grant. So we have the ability to work with local businesses to go through a program we called Alice at Work. And it's a 12-hour course that HR professionals and CEO, the decision makers, can go through to learn about how do they make differences. We know it's not easy to just up minimum wage. That's not possible for a lot of our businesses, but there are other alternatives in professional growth to allow our businesses to be, to retain their employees, to be attractive to employees, and to build their workplace. Because when you have turnover in a workplace, it's expensive. So how do you build other opportunities and other areas to support the workforce? That was actually pretty quick.
Thank you, Carrie.
So just a quick question. So can we consider the people in the ALICE group working class people?
Yes,
Okay.
they are
Just
our
wanna make sure I
working
clarified
families.
that.
Yep.
Council Lavin.
Having run a food distribution thing in Canandaigua and Geneva for some years now,
Mm-hmm.
these
Closer to the mic, please.
These are people who include seniors who had jobs, were doing well, but face in their later years a diminished, low social security because of when they worked,
Right.
and now they're making choices between food and medicine
And yes,
and
healthcare.
things. And they're right here in the neighborhoods,
Mhm.
making the 400-car lines at our food distributions and things. Those are the people. They're not traditional, what people in the room would think as
Correct.
the working poor even.
Right. So the other opportunity that Alice gives us is we can look at the 65 and over population, and yes, That's 40% plus 8. So 40% of our 65 and over population is considered ALICE. 8% in Ontario County is considered in poverty. Our other biggest, and I don't have this on here, is those 25 and under. So our kids that are just graduating, going right into the workforce or going to college, that 25 and over is also our highest population of poverty plus ALICE. And also our single cohabitating adults, and then families with children, especially our single mothers have a harder time than single fathers with children. So we're also able to break it down by gender and families, and then also race and ethnicity, which the federal poverty level does not care. It
Right.
does not take into account.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the information. Oh,
Thank you.
Counselor Peeler.
So I'll just say, this data is all free on unitedforalice.org. We have a number of states that are listed. You can click on state data, click on New York, and then there's a county page. But there's also all sorts of other types of information and data that's available. There's a deep dive into the consumer price index and how that is really diluting the true cost of inflation, especially for basic items. And Alice pulls out the basic items to look at the difference of the consumer price index compared to the 200 items in the consumer price index. There's also a deep dive into consequences of children living in an ALICE threshold or ALICE household, veterans, and people with disabilities. So we're looking at people. So unitedforalice.org is the website. I will leave my card if anybody has any information or would like to more, and I do have a couple extra of the data sheets that I will leave as well. And I did bring just one, but this is an example how you can break up and do a household by people to understand what it truly costs to live in our area.
I believe Counselor Peeler has a question.
I have a clarifying question.
Sure.
Did you say the United Way provides an opportunity or a service for residents to either contact you or schedule a time with your organization to work out a budget?
We can. The budget.
An ALICE budget or whatever that might mean? 'Cause
Sure. There is an ALICE budget on the website that you can go in and plug yourself. So
you
you
plug
can
in
do
your
it.
data and then it will tell you how to make that work?
Well, it'll tell you what it is, and then it'll also give you what hourly wage you would need to make to cover that basic needs. And again, that's just basic needs. It's not saving for a child's birthday or retirement, or it's just basic needs.
Okay, so that's, I get what you're saying. I wouldn't classify that as a budget. We do a budget in my house every few months, and we basically figure out how do we take the money we pull in and turn it into money that we need, and we save very little, if anything, but we still make it work, so you don't,
Sure. A lot
you
of
don't get
families-
involved in that process?
We don't.
Okay. I think a lot of people need that help.
Yeah. So, but I will say we do have a lot of financial institutions, Lions National Bank, Canandaigua National Bank, that they do have financial programs that will help you do that. They have a lot of free financial literacy programs that offer that service, and they do use our ALICE data.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All set. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I will leave these here.
Next on the agenda is the exciting city debt overview by our city comptroller.
I know you didn't mean that sarcastically, Mayor.
No,
Can you,
it's good stuff, in my opinion.
do you have the mouse over there?
Takes money to make money,
That's
Adam.
right. All right,
Oh, you're now in charge of
I
it?
got this pointer thingy here, so I appreciate everyone canceling their plans to be here specifically for the debt service and capital financing presentation. I'm going to try to be brief, keep it as simple as possible. So what we want to talk tonight about is we're going to talk about our debt service first, and then our capital plan, capital financing after that. So debt service, what is it? Basically, it's a way for a municipality to take on large capital projects when they don't have the ability to pay cash for it. So we're going to be getting into a little bit more later tonight about our wastewater plant And especially at wastewater and water plants, the projects are always extremely expensive. And really street reconstruction, those kinds of things are too. A lot of municipalities, especially smaller ones than Geneva, just really don't have the cash to take on a project like that without borrowing for it. And if they do, it's going to set them back in a capital planning standpoint because they'll only be able to do one project every so many years. So how does it work? So basically, you borrow money for the total, and you pay back the bond over the useful life, or the PPU, which stands for probable period of usefulness for the project. So a general fund project is 15 years most times, and water and sewer are usually 30. There are different circumstances that change that, but that's kind of the standard. And then, is it bad? I would argue no. If it's managed appropriately, it can be very useful. As I mentioned before, in some cases, it's the only way that municipalities could afford to do major upgrades or improvements to their infrastructure. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the city's debt to revenue. So we have three main funds: general fund, water fund, sewer fund. And as you can see here, our debt to revenue ratio in the general fund is 10.14%. Anything between 10 and 15 is considered extremely good. Anything above that, still not bad. You don't want to get, in the general fund, I will say, you don't want to get up into the 30s or 40s, but where we are now is very good, and we'll touch on why that's important in a little bit. For water and sewer, it's a little bit different. Those numbers do seem high, but they really aren't for an enterprise fund like water and sewer, where the funds are so small, but the costs related to wastewater plants and water plants are so high. So that is very typical for a water and a sewer fund. So there's different financing options other than just a bond. There's a bond anticipation note, or a BAN. What that is you borrow for a project, and when the project is complete, you mature that BAN into a bond. It's anticipating a bond. And why that's valuable is because costs change. So you could borrow for $2 million in a bond anticipation note. Could only cost $1.5 million, and then when you actually borrow the full bond, you're only borrowing the 1.5, and you save the $500,000 that you would have to be paying interest on. A general obligation bond is basically what we do in the general fund. It's your standard borrowing. Same with water and sewer revenue. What that means is the borrowings in the water and sewer fund are backed by ratepayer revenue, so the services that you provide. And then there's something called installment purchase debt, which is essentially just financing. So that's for typically smaller things, vehicles. We haven't done that in several years because interest rates have been high. And basically what it is if we were to buy a police car, we would finance it over the course of 3 years. Typically now we pay cash because it's not worth it to us. The interest rates are too high. There are other options for communities that are more fiscally stressed. Geneva is considered no designation for fiscal stress. We're stressed in other ways, I would say. But according to the state of New York, fiscally stressed in this realm, we are not. There are things called tax anticipation notes, which some municipalities have to take on, which is you basically borrow money until your tax money comes in, and then you pay it back with your tax money. It's a really tough situation to get into, in a very difficult cycle to break. So bond ratings, that's where the debt to revenue ratio come into play. We are currently at a AA with a stable outlook, which is the second from the top. If you know much about me, you know I'm not a fan of bond ratings for a number of reasons, but we still have to do our bond rating calls and comply with all the regulations. So we do that. Better bond ratings reflect better interest rates, just very similar to your personal credit score. Some of the things that are taken under consideration is the debt to revenue ratio. If you can pay your debts, which we do, it's one of the things we budget for every year, and it's a large cost, but we make sure that our bills are paid. And then also the ability to generate revenue, and that's always a hot topic with taxing and things like that. But as a municipality, we do have the ability to tax, and so from a bonding and borrowing standpoint, we do have the ability to generate revenue. One of the things that the state governs us on for debt is our constitutional debt limit. Currently, our total debt, and this would be at the end of this fiscal year, so as 2025 ends, our total debt across all three funds is $39.8 million. That's down significantly over the last couple of years. More debt has come off than has been added in the prior few years, so that's been good from a debt standpoint. What the debt limit does is it takes a percentage of the 5-year average full value of taxable property, and then total outstanding debt minus excluded debt. Now that sounds complicated, but it's not too bad. Things that are excluded from this: debt issued for the purposes of water supply and distribution, which is almost all water debt. It's rare that we would bond for anything in the water fund that didn't fit under that. Then sanitary sewer projects and installment purchase debt. Again, not much installment purchase debt, but when it's there, it is excluded. Our debt limit currently is, we have 13.44% of our borrowing power exhausted, which is quite low. Just because we have room to borrow $30 million more does not mean we should. I would not recommend that, but from a numbers standpoint, those are the facts. Again, not recommending that whatsoever. I'm very happy hovering around 15% of our borrowing power exhausted, because you never know when you're really going to need, to use that extra. So that leads into capital planning. A couple things that go into consideration for what projects we're doing next. Take an inventory of our assets and do a needs assessment. So we look at everything, maintenance, upgrades, replacement of infrastructure, major equipment, things like that. And then, of course, the health and safety of the city, of the people in it. And what's, are we seeing something that's a danger that we need to seriously consider upgrading or repairing? Then we have to identify the resources. So you want to include every kind of cost there, operations and contingencies, but also maintenance, because as we've learned in the past, you can do a project where you have a brand new street, but you have to maintain it. So whether it's a street, a plant, anything, you have to maintain it after that. And then we ensure that capital projects are supported by funding across years, and that goes back to making our debt payments. And then finally, develop and implement. So we highlight the total expenditures, funding sources, and align with the strategic plan. And we do that over the course of a 5-year plan. So every year in the annual budget, there's a 5-year capital plan. It's certainly subject to change, but those are the things that are on our radar for that time period. So some benefits of strong capital and debt planning. Kind of obvious: financial flexibility. We spread the capital costs over time to reduce strain on operating budgets. So there again, you're not paying cash up front for a $2, $3, $4 million project in one lump sum. Market confidence: well-managed plans improve credit ratings and investor trust. Investor being the investment banks that buy the bonds. And then transparency and accountability. We want to have a good plan so everyone can see it, understand what's going on, understand where the city's priorities are. then planning for the future. Again, 5-year capital plan. I did see a recommendation where some places do up to a 25-year capital plan. We're not quite there yet, but maybe in the future. I think those places do use a lot more technology. There are pieces of technology that can kind of go over roads with lasers and find out, you know, what's a priority and what shouldn't be a priority. And the importance of aligning capital planning with debt strategies. Obviously, you want to make sure that you're not taking on debt that you can't pay back or that you can't handle. And then another thing that that can be done at the council level, which is important, is drafting and updating capital improvement plans, but adopting debt policies. It can be overall debt. It can be by fund. There's a lot of different things you can do in terms of you know, making sure that you're not exceeding a certain level that council feels comfortable with. So an example would be, you know, adopting a policy that says we're not going to take on any more debt than is coming off unless we vote otherwise, something like that. Again, all this, it would be self-imposed, but certainly something to look at in the future as these conversations happen more and more. And that's all I've got for now.
Okay, I see quite a few councilors that have questions, so we'll start with Council Peeler. I see Council Lavin and Council Grimaldi.
Excuse me. I have 2 questions. One of them, I think, segues to the other. So several years ago, I think 7, I took the Budget Academy with then Adam Blowers, and we learned a little bit about intelligent borrowing based on interest rates and the rate of inflation. And to that extent, and you mentioned earlier that the rate of inflation right now is very prohibitionary, right? It's prohibitive.
Yep.
So, but the intelligent borrowing is when you can borrow and your interest rate essentially falls under the rate of inflation. So as you pay back the term of the loan, you end up paying 96 cents on the dollar, 92 cents on the dollar. So you actually recuperate a far lower interest rate. And I think we've done that in the past, but right now, because I know you're more in the vein in this type of industry than myself, do you see any type of relief from interest rates coming where we can start doing that type of intelligent borrowing?
Yeah, so I do see that. It has improved the last couple of borrowings, and we work with a company, Municipal Solutions, and they kind of, I guess they act as an advisor in this area. They're very helpful in knowing trends and things like that. We're in pretty close contact with them. They advise us on, okay, now would be a good time to borrow, now would not. I do see things going in the right direction. It certainly helps that we have a really strong bond rating. And also, our highest bond right now that we're paying interest on, I believe, is just over 3%. And our highest our highest CD account that we're receiving interest on is at 4.25%. So we're making interest, we're making money at a higher level than we're losing money, I guess you could say.
That's the game.
On paying interest. So that's something that we closely monitor. And as you said, I mean, when you're dealing with numbers that large, that's important. So it can be several $100,000 a year swing depending on those rates.
I think if more taxpayers knew that we could be investing in our community at essentially negative interest rate, they would be probably more open-minded about taking on debt, because debt scares most people for good reasons, but not a lot of people are fiscally educated about what that might mean for long-term payments and big sums of money.
Sure.
Right? And paying it back slower also can ease the tax burden. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So my next question is about this policy that you brought up.
Mm-hmm.
Does that policy essentially give you less micromanagement crap from us, so that we can just give you a policy to reference so that you can borrow without needing, hey, can I get this money? Hey, can I get this money?
You can micromanage as much as you want.
No, I don't want to.
No, so it kind of. It kind of just acts more as a guide, so we know okay, let's run this scenario for these capital projects or the long-term capital planning and know, all right, we're not going to put 8 projects in our 2030 capital plan because this is going to exceed this limit. We're going to
This
scale it back.
stipulation in the policy?
Yeah, it would just be sort of a self-imposed internal policy. They've had them in the past, and when there's a situation where it needs to be, I guess, not followed, the council has agreed to it in those situations for emergencies or whatever. But
In the past, did we, so to follow up on that, did we generally set the rubric of the policy of like what we can and can't borrow? Maybe if we include an interest rate clause, like we're not looking to borrow if this is the interest rate, something like that?
so in the past, the only thing it included from what I remember was just your annual debt service not exceeding what's coming off of debt. So
I
your
understand.
debt service basically is stuck at a level.
Flatlines.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it just doesn't ever go over that.
All right, thank you very much.
If I may on that, I think the biggest piece to that, what the policy could do, is it just gives that framework so it outlasts any one council. It gives
Yes.
that a longer term vision of, and I think now that we're switching with different councils every 2 years, that might be something that you want to look at, is having that longer term vision. Because as staff are working really, Adam mentioned capital planning, 5-year plans, 10-year plans, those are very long-term visions. But if, in 2 years we decide we're going to change direction, a lot of this debt is long-term vision projects. You're not using debt for day-to-day operations.
Council Lavin, then Council Grimaldi.
Would you like to go first? No, go ahead. Okay. Adam, thanks for your good work as always. I appreciate the transparency that you're bringing to the job. And most of what I have to say right now really has more to do with the upcoming budget season sessions that we're doing, because while I know the state would let us borrow more, and we can make an argument that borrowing might save 5 or 6%, in a city, every city's different, and everyone's in a different fiscal situation. And I've continued to say, and will continue to say, we are in a very dire fiscal situation, much more than our balance sheet shows with our surplus here. We are, in my opinion, a couple of years away from not being able to use our taxes to cover police, fire, water, sewer, as we are in our staff. Some may disagree with me on that, but that's how close we are. And 20% of everything we spend out of this $25 million that comes through us every year is for this category, which gives us a tool. And I think that right now we're sitting on $2 million that we put aside for a marina that we've continually said we do not want to build. And we have another $1 million that we approved. I don't know if that shows up in your numbers yet, for that project. And I'm just pointing out as we go into budget season that if we took the $2 million, gave it back, and between now and over the next few years said we are going to hold off on major capital programs, we would have far more than the $900,000 I've been asking for as a tax reduction for next year. And that's, I'd like, as we go into the budget season, to have that tool explained to the council as we look through cuts and reductions, because it's not necessarily a cop or a fireman or a fire truck. It's some of the way that we're choosing to amass our money and hold it and spend it. So just as a beginning of a reduction of our indebtedness, to get that 20% maybe down overall, water and sewer count. These people pay for it. That we can get to a point where we're understanding our fiscal situation and using every tool in the book, including you and this category, to start down, not just amass more to sustain what we're doing in the future. So I sent you, I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, my understanding of the current indebtedness and the rate at which it's already planned to come down. And if we had the discipline to say we're going to hold off on major projects, major plans for just, well, I think Mr. Grimaldi has a better hand for this, how quickly we could start reducing taxes. We are one of the highest taxed cities, municipalities in New York State. You can argue about it because our houses cost less, but we already are driving the seniors and the poor out of here. A house on South Main Street can have a $40,000 annual tax bill with everything involved. That's not sustainable. So as we go into tax season, I would really love to see how we could be aggressive in this area, even though the state would let us take more. And even though other towns around us may have a different debt situation, they also have a different tax situation. And I think this is an important thing, and I know it's not the most exciting, but my reading of all this debt and debt processes says I think we have a tool here that we can give some relief now.
And I have not had a chance to read what you sent, but I will and get back to you on it.
That's right. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Counselor Grimaldi.
I only have a statement, I figure, for the council. The big thing with debt you have to remember is you're borrowing for the citizens today, but you're asking the citizens of tomorrow to pay for that. So when you're borrowing, you gotta make sure that it's something that's gonna hold up long enough that those people who are paying actually benefit from it. So that's my only thing with that.
And on that note, that's one of the reasons we've switched from borrowing for cars and things like that and really following that long-term planning.
Yeah.
Nothing goes, those smaller purchases go with current cash.
A smile. Equipment amortization fund.
I know.
Adam, you mentioned the 5-year capital plan. And this might be Joe also, but is that prioritized worst first?
What do you think, Joe?
As far as streets are concerned, we try to do worst first, but there's some factors in that, with utilities also taking a position. It could be the pavement condition first, because everybody sees that, but I have a list of where water main breaks have occurred, sewer breaks have occurred, so it may not look the worst street on top, but it may make it to the worst.
So, yeah, basically what I see in a 5-year plan for doing this quite a few years is anything that's coming in year one is something that, if delayed, could be an emergency that turns out in year one if you don't budget for it. Okay.
Certainly, and we try to incorporate that as well in our facilities and the plants by looking ahead at what's in front of us for growth and expansion and just overall wear and tear on products that only have a certain life expectancy.
We'll be talking about that again soon. Anybody else?
I give one more
Councilor
comment,
Levin.
I'm sorry. The other issue I meant to bring up here is I think one of the things we can be more aggressive at as you look at the indebtedness is how much we're paying for you and the manager and others who do the work on these funds. We always say water and sewer has to be spent on water and sewer, but some of what we're spending is you, your expertise, and your background, and not just your hours. And I think that part of what the town and some of the surrounding communities benefit from is your willingness to do that, our willingness to pay for it. I don't necessarily think we're taking back as much as we should on that side of things. I also think that we could, if we're really aggressive in this budget year, do a unilateral increase in water rates charged to outside entities. And that can instantly give us a boost in revenue that, could they sue us? Yes, but as an attorney will tell you, you can convict or indict a ham sandwich, and anybody can sue anybody. But I think that we have a good, strong argument for the work we do for this region, that we're not getting enough for the work that Joe and his team do. And that could be an aggressive look at our budget, too. Thank you.
The attorney's not going to comment on that.
The ham sandwich? Okay.
I will tell you, though, Counselor, that in the budget draft that will be released next Tuesday, you will see line items for transfers from water and sewer to the general fund for those exact things, covering the costs of general fund employees.
And their history of how much we've been doing and how much we're doing now to show an increase.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, next is a presentation added to the agenda by the Geneva Parks Collective with Gabriella D'Angelo.
Thank you so much for amending this for us, and giving us a few minutes. We won't take up a lot of your
nice paper?
Thank you.
Gonna boil it?
Yes, thank you.
I'd like to ask your graphics people to improve Adam's graphics people.
Wow. Oh, that's savage.
Counselors, please remember the microphone.
Given that it's on.
All right.
Okay, the closer to the mic, the better for even the off-site audience.
Well, I'm Jeffrey Halauer Geiger. This is Gabriella D'Angelo, and we are the Geneva Parks Collective, a resident action group dedicated to the betterment and the improvement of all of our parks here in our community and developing recreational opportunities.
Thank you. Yep. It's been a minute since I've been to one of these meetings, so thank you again for your time. We basically want to bring to light, for those of you that don't know, some of the work that we've been doing as a grassroots community group. Since January until now, really, we've been steadily meeting on a monthly basis and sometimes a few times per month. And basically, we're looking at our neighborhood parks. So not the lakefront park, but all of the neighborhood parks, which we have 13 parks or so. We're looking at 11 of them. So those nestled parks that are in our neighborhoods and that service the residents of our community. And we are looking into what the community wants. What do the residents want in their parks? We're both parents. And so what really sparked this is having toddlers walking through these parks, going to these parks, and just feeling like, where is everybody? And why is there rust on things? And congratulations to the city for mowing them beautifully, which I think is also something worth commending here. But it seems that they really haven't been updated at all, as of recent anyways, that we still have 20th century parks, that our playgrounds are needing update. We need to have spaces that are inclusive, but are also servicing those residents and neighbors in those communities, right, in those neighborhoods. We have such an amazing resource here to share, right? Geneva is super unique in that way, that we have this many parks to share. So what do we want in them? So we've been working in a few different ways through surveys, community outreach, and in workshops to collect as much information as we can from the community on what they would like to see. And the paper wrapping it all here, this is a little bit of visual from the workshops that we did with the entirety of the 2nd grade, 6th grade, a portion of Moody School. And the other side of it is visualizations of some of the data that we've been collecting with our interns this past summer. This is reflective of about 500 responses that we've gotten from people of all ages, all ranges, throughout all of our neighborhoods. It's also research into our neighborhoods, our demographics, and the resources that we have surrounding our parks. Inside of the book is a little bit of the history of our neighborhood parks, architecturally, but also programmatically. It's also bringing to light some of the pieces of our data and how we are programming currently in our parks and around the city, outside of our parks. So what we are, I guess, interested in continuing to do is to collect more information from our residents of the city of Geneva. And we're looking to also ask the city, as you're looking to budget, or as you'll be budgeting in the next month or so, is to include our neighborhood parks in that conversation, and updating our neighborhood parks. And this doesn't mean that everything has to be done all at once, right? This is a pretty ambitious project, over 30 plus acres of property, which again is really unbelievable that we have this to share. So what can we do to work with our community, with our neighbors, to make our parks better? We also recently did some updates to Richards Park. If you haven't been there, you should go check it out. The City of Geneva, HWS, and the LDC helped to support some of those initiatives. But also there was a great group of residents that came, painted, put together. We have a Gaga pit there. If you don't know what that is, you should look it up. We had kids playing in it before we left that day. It was a 3-hour work day. So we're super excited about what we're doing, but we know that it needs more support in order to push it forwards. We also have a series of grants that we're looking into. We're continuing to grow the group that is interested in this project because it is something that I think is near and dear to a lot of people's hearts because it is in our backyards.
And I want to give a special thank you to 3 counselors in particular that have come to our meetings and have engaged with us in this process. Jim Petropoulos, Tom Morocco, and John Brennan, they have been at our meetings having these conversations with us in an active, present way. And not to say that y'all aren't having these conversations, but we really want to appreciate and give a shout out to them for being at the meetings with us. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's good stuff.
Is this a presentation? We can ask a question.
You can ask a question, yeah.
There's one park you're not mentioning here that the city owns on Carter Road that probably shouldn't, it may not be on your agenda, but it probably shouldn't be left off the assets of the city.
Sure. Okay. Is that in the city or is that in the town?
No, it's in the city.
That's
but
considered the
it's-
city?
It's owned by the city, but the town is very interested in it. The school district should be interested in it. It's called
Sure.
Loomis Woods.
Yep.
And it's being overrun.
Yeah.
It's being overgrown, and it's actually probably a danger more
Yeah.
than the other parks that sit mowed and open.
Is that a project that's recently been looked at through a group at HWS and the Cornell Extension, and there seemed to have been a collaborative project that happened? It is, Amy, right?
It is, and
Okay.
it's also in partnership with the school district.
School district, too.
Has a
It's right
long-term
there.
lease agreement
Yeah.
with us for that.
Yeah, yeah. Wonderful. We will put that on.
Great asset,
Yeah,
needs to be saved.
yeah.
The school does their annual pumpkin walk in those woods every year. And the coyote noises are not special effects.
Again, thank you very much for your efforts.
Ooh.
We need more of that.
Just one quick thing too. Richards Park is really one that the residents are interested in making some moves on because it was demoed recently. And so this is a really important park that I think we need to bring some budget to in the next year, if any of them. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next on our agenda, going right into that debt service again. ATAD discussion, ATAD bids, next steps by our city comptroller Blowers and Director of Annuity.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think, Joe, this might more fall on you, but I'll kind of get us started. So several years ago, the city council and staff worked together with the town of Geneva, town of Waterloo, and some consultants and determined that our ATAD system at the wastewater treatment plant, which we'll get into what that is in a minute, needed some upgrades, and that we were basically very close to capacity. There was some delays. The bidding just happened. The bids came in. The bids came in higher than we projected 7 years ago, which makes sense. So tonight we have a resolution on the floor later to discuss this, but for now I'll turn it over to Joe and then Nick DiMaria, who's our operator at the wastewater treatment plant to kind of go over what the ATAD system is and why it's important.
Thank you, Comptroller. Good evening. Nick DiMaria, as Adam had mentioned, is our chief waste operator at the plant and has joined us just in case there's any specific technical questions that I can't get to. But for a little bit of a refresher, as Adam had mentioned, this is an ongoing project. The city had a preliminary engineering report that started like in the late 20-teens and was completed in September 2021. This report addressed both the needs for additional solid handling capacity in our ATAD process and additional pumping capacity for our Marsh Creek pump station. Nick and I are both happy and proud to report that we've upgraded the Marsh Creek pump station, and it's been online about 2 years now, and that helps us tremendously with flows. You may recall back in April 24, we had a presentation with the MRB group, who was our consultant on the project. We talked about the WIA grant funding, the strategy, the overall details, and this past year has been spent on engineering design and technical spec writing, preparing the bid documents, advertising the bid, and then following the competitive bid process. So as Adam mentioned, we recently took bids. We have 5 separate contracts: a general, electrical, HVAC, plumbing, and then there's a tank, a bolted tank that needed improvements to handle this upgrade for us. So all told, those systems are important for us to increase our capacity to process the waste. So I reminded everyone again that the volume capacity for both liquid and solid is very different. The Marsh Creek pump station helps us handle the liquids. This ATAD project helps us handle the solids. We are a rated plant to handle 6 million gallons a day of flow with a capacity of 5,000 pounds per day of solids. So this project will basically double our capacity to handle additional solids. Why is it important? Growth around us, growth here within our city limits, and the development between the communities that we service.
Thank you. So before we open up the discussion, I just want to let council know that I don't want to be redundant in our discussion. So later on in this conversation and under new business, we have a resolution talking about the actual bond. So whether you're going to ask questions or enter discussion currently right now, or you want to save it till the actual resolution, let's not be redundant if possible. Councilors? Councilor Lavin.
Can you tell me where in this project the calculation of demand is? How much of it's coming from outside of the city? How much of the funding is built into the payoff and operation of this, including your salaries and efforts on this and other things? Is that part of this estimation of, because much of the new need is coming from outside the city?
Yes, Councilor Adam. Both the report that we have from 2020, to put it in very simple terms, indicated the city's capacity could grow no more than 500 single-family dwelling units, if you put it in perspective. So 500 units of single-family housing. If the town of Geneva has a 300-unit project coming up, that chews that up quite a bit. City of Geneva's got several on the table, right? 75 units here, 50 units over there. Waterloo, we know, has multiple projects in the hopper. The Missick family and folks out in the town to the south of us, quite a few projects online. So that number, if you will, is just a very basic engineering tool that has a factor of so many gallons per unit that we know we can handle. We're at currently pushing 95% of our capacity at the time this came on board, which puts Nick and the crew at very close limits to bumping the regulatory limits, in case we could be fined or given consent orders, because we don't have any reserve capacity.
So where in this proposal that you're going to bring forward to us today, is there a dunning of where the growth is coming from for this project to be necessary? We're not going to have 500 new housing units in Geneva in any time in our lifetime here, probably.
So as we started the project right from the beginning, the factors that were used for the town's commitments, both Town of Geneva, Town of Waterloo, was based on their capacities of flow that we monitor annually, and it's on average about 14% for the Town of Geneva, about 3% for the Town of Waterloo.
Based on our past contracts.
Past
And
contracts
contract
and
rates.
actual flows.
That have not been renegotiated yet.
It's based on a current contract for this ATAD expansion. So when we went into, and I think this gets in a little of the bonding discussion, when we went to take on the potential of this debt, we used those percentages to create the sharing structure for this project.
Yeah, I think that needs to be examined closely in terms of how we're charging back everything for something like this, and I haven't seen that, hasn't been presented. I don't know that it would be in the bonding discussion either. The city needs to capture more of its role here, and I think we need to be more confident that we're not doing more free work for the expansion of lower tax housing outside the city and in Waterloo, leaving it all for Mr. Linger to pay for his apartments downtown.
Councilor Peeler.
Yeah, I just wanna echo that it needs, I think Councilor Lavin is right, and I wanna make sure that we're being thorough. Cause I don't have any problem with this expansion, but just from the discussion, it looks like upwards of 3/5 of the expansion is to cover out-of-town demand. So if, what I'm hearing is that we're having half the debt covered by out-of-town sources, then we're still not doing due diligence on a fair agreement for our taxpayers, because it sounds like it should be more like 2/5, 3/5, or whatever it should be. And I think I hope it's thorough and fair in that element. And I think some attention should be given to those pressures that we're getting out of town, because I remember in past discussions, just after we did the first ATAD, that this was an opportunity for our taxpayers in our city to provide services at a higher rate so that we would benefit from them, so that we would be like a leader and a person and a group or an entity that can charge for a high quality service. And right now it sounds like we're just kind of covering the costs and not getting the benefits on a fair rate. So I just think some really deep attention to those numbers be presented to us. And I hope the projected realities match with the estimates, right? Because what's an estimate? It's not worth the paper it's written on if it's way far away from the reality when the boots hit the ground. Thank you.
I've mentioned this a lot, and I feel like I'm using it as an excuse, but I'm truly not. This rate study that we are still in the middle of with this company GHD, we are addressing this issue as well with them. So it's taken longer than we've hoped, but one of the things that Joe and myself have said over and over to them is the word thorough, and that's exactly what we're doing with this. So it's a concern for us staff as well. We hear the council on that, we hear the community on that, and we certainly don't want city residents to be taking the hit for out-of-towners.
Yeah, subsidizing development outside of town is really what it boils down to.
And so that's the goal of this study as well, is not to come up with a rate that can just, the people in the town, we're going to get the town, something like that. What we want to do is we need to make sure whatever we're doing is justifiable. You can reason through it. It makes sense. We want to be able to hold that up and say, this is the percentage of usage we're seeing out of town. You're paying that percentage of the cost.
I would like to go a step further and it be a gleaming perk to the taxpayer.
So a
Gleaming benefit.
benefit,
Right? There's
yep.
just a weight on one side, right? And I think that's an okay thing to shoot for.
Is there any way to have these people who are doing this study come in and hear what the political view of, I see it as an asset that in a position of strength in a city that's been in a passive position and a weak position for years. And their judgment of what's fair shouldn't trump what our judgment is fair. And I think that we're in a time when we have to be aggressive with this.
We do plan to have them come in. That's
Yeah.
kind of one of their standards. Doing a rate study is a presentation to their board or to the council, and we certainly want them to do that. They're well skilled at that, and then we can have Q&A during that time. I think that's
And
the
they
right
are
thing to do.
watching this meeting. They've been watching all of these meetings, so they are clear on what they're working on.
Gleaming.
They also, this is not the only community they do this in. They are by far the experts, and I know
Yeah.
I've only attended one of those meetings. Joe and Adam have been meeting with them ongoing, as well as other staff members, and they are very thorough and going line by line,
We-
going through it all.
We've been incredibly generous to give the town a bulk sale, which they then use to raise their rates differently and lower the residential rates in the town against what people in the city pay. If we just simply said, if you want city water or sewer, come to us, we'll get a meter in your place and we'll serve it to you at price we set. Some towns, cities in New York State, out of district water users and sewer users are paying 100% more than the people in the city. And those are considered legal and fair because they're not supporting the overall management of the city, you guys. And we're looking at salaries and the desire to maintain this stuff. This is a place where we can't be quietly behind the scenes shaking hands on deals and housing developments in the town on the assumption that condos at Geneva Country Club are going to get water and sewer from the city. We can't do that anymore, in my opinion.
I think we're going to find that information out from the rate study and the communication with our consult. And I do believe, from everything I understand, they understand the climate of this council and the direction of what this council's looking for.
Do we have a day certain on their study yet?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Do we have a day certain for when we're going to see this? I've been hearing about it for 18 months.
I don't think there's one date set, but what do you think, Joe? I mean, the next month, I would say.
Yeah, it's only been several months, Counselor, but we can definitely try to set up a special meeting and bring him in as quickly as you'd like.
It's
That'd be
only
good.
been a couple months.
We contracted
This
with them
summer.
at the beginning of the year, or
Yeah.
this summer.
Yeah.
We didn't have the funding until this year.
So, yeah,
We
just,
could have raised the rates last
I'll
year.
see, Counselor, there's other people that would like to talk. So there is a way to accurately understand current usage from outside the city limits?
Yes, Mayor, we have 4 metering pits that have capture daily quantities all the way into how many minute increments? 8-minute increments or something like that? Every 8 minutes, we're doing
Excellent.
flow calcs.
And
So
that's intake?
That should give us factual information.
100%.
Thank you.
Do we know how much the town of Seneca gives to the town of
Counselors-
Geneva that comes to us?
Counselors, give everybody else a chance. There's
Alright.
other people that are interested,
Okay.
and I got hands up over here, and I had a few questions too, so
Alright.
let's go
Go ahead.
around the table a little
Throw it
bit,
out.
please. My other question has to do with the closing of the landfill in 2028, and solids we send, or used to send to the landfill. We don't necessarily do that right now. Do we need to be aware of the solids that we are, I forget the term, windrowing or whatever it might be? Are we sending solids to the landfill?
No, we currently produce a Class A biosolids from previous investments by the city in the ATAD process. We used to have a B solid that had to be disposed of, but now we have something that's actually land spreadable. Nick can speak, we're one of the first communities in the state to have this system, and we are looked at regionally as the benchmark of making this product. So we don't dispose of it at the landfill. We're currently working with the landfill on a questionnaire in the anticipation of 2028 to what, regionally how we all interact. Things may be have to be sent for incineration or things like that. So there's a collective going on amongst us to try to determine the next steps for the future.
You keep saying Nick can speak to that. I'm very proud of that system. I was on council when we did that, and I believe, Nick, this ATAD expansion allows us to make sure that we continue not to send solids to the landfill?
Yes, that was the main driving force of the ATAD, was to separate from the landfill. Just the cost that we saved in the past 10 years not going there, I don't know the exact amount, but you know, that was set to pay for that project. And as Joe said, we do not send any biosolids to the landfill currently. So, you know, and we were the first in New York State to put this system in. So we're in a really good spot with that.
Huge accolades to our team and our system for doing that, because that is tremendous. It gives us that independence. We also, in the early 2000s, said no to taking leachate, which is a revenue of $200,000 a year. So, you know, we've done the right things environmentally. Councilor Morocco.
When it comes to the upgrades of this ATAD, do we get any financing from some of these outside entities that aren't part of Geneva? Are they helping to pay for the upgrades to the ATAD system, or is this all on us?
Yep. So as a part of the agreements that the city has with the town of Geneva and town of Waterloo, they pay an annual amount. It's last year, or I'm sorry, 2025, I believe that amount was just over 800,000. So they pay that. And then there's also, which we will get into at the resolution, but there's also a grant. And then I believe there's intermunicipal agreements discussing the upfront costs as well.
So
I don't have those numbers.
That's the percentage Joe is talking about. The percentages, they will pay that percentage of the debt on this project post grants. So whatever the total project cost is.
I think it's 12.5% of the total debt they pay.
Right. And
Is that based on their usage, or?
it's based on the usage rates that Joe was talking about. That's how that was created.
Okay, back to Councilor Lavin.
There are no agreements right now between the city and the town other than what we've politely agreed to maintain from the past.
The intermunicipal agreement on this project is still in existence until this project is completed. This agreement was taken on in 22, right? Which then goes into paying for the debt from this project. And that's where that's shared. There's also the potential for another municipality outside of that agreement to take on for a piece, because they would also like to. They have been directed by the state, actually, to be a part of this as well.
Is that the town of Seneca?
No.
Because the town of Seneca, I understand, gives outlets to the town of Geneva, which then passes it on to us, but we don't even know who in the city, in Seneca, how much, and whether or not the town is charging the town of Seneca for that service.
You are correct.
Well, okay, just for the record, we're giving away a service.
With our agreement with the town of Geneva, it's so much volume based. So if town of Seneca is sending it through Geneva and it's still within the capacity of that volume, that's what the original agreements were based on, and the agreement for this particular contract, which was very similar to the Marsh Creek Pump Station agreement, was based on those flow volumes.
So we gave the town the right to sell access to our plant to anybody without telling us.
Indirectly correct.
Yes. And that's really why we started this rate study, is to change those agreements into that. And I think that's a piece of why the rate study's taking longer, is because we're now looking at decades of agreements and how to make it the right fit for what we have now.
And I'll just mention quickly that water and sewer rates are independent of a budget, so they can be changed at any time.
Right.
It doesn't have to be just during budget time. We could, a budget could be adopted with no increase in rates, and then in February you could decide we want to change them, and then in April you want to change them to something else. You can do that as frequently as you want. It's been done before. It's not pleasant for staff or the residents, but it's been done, and we got through it. So it doesn't have to be as a part of the budget process.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to move on to the next discussion, which is the Clark Street Park alienation by Council Petropoulos.
And for the sake of non-redundance, we'll save the following sidewalks discussion for the resolution.
Okay.
Right, so now Tommy Morocco and I were on to this, and Council Morocco let me know that there's a large area of land, Clark Street. It's listed as Clark Street Park here. And we thought about it, we looked at it. I was told it never gets used, ergo to it, and ipso facto, wouldn't this be a nice place for a starter home? So what happened at that point is I went to Assemblyman Gallahan's office and picked up the very dry procedures for what they call park alienation. Now, a lot of it is definition oriented. It's zoned as an open space. All parks are open space, but not all open spaces are parks. So the procedure, if we chose to go this route, and I'll get to the other discussions I've had since, the procedure, if we wanted to take this city-owned land, which apparently no federal or state money has gone into, ergo we can sell it. If we wanted to go that route, the first thing we need to do is pass a resolution indicating we wish to do that. At that point, one of us, probably myself, would write a pitch for the state. Here's why we want to sell it. Here's, the money from the sale could be funneled into recreation, whatever. I mean, a convincing pitch that would make the effort look favorable to the state. Once that pitch was done, the package goes to Assemblyman Gallahan and Senator Helming. And when they go, then it's got to be given in by January when they go into session in Albany. And they would then send us the bill numbers when it's on their agendas, and we would then pass a final resolution supporting those efforts. And by June, we'd have a yay or nay as to whether or not we want to go ahead or we're allowed to go ahead and develop that land. So as of this past Saturday, I did meet with the Parks Collective, and the consensus there is that we shouldn't alienate that park. So what I'm willing to do here before I come up with any resolution is let's see what the neighbors want. Now, the reality is that Courtyard Apartments, that's owned by the Housing Authority, they have a nice little playground. They have a park with goalposts. Ward 6 as a whole has Galvin Park, which I think is more frequently used. On the other hand, it could be, a nice little spot of woods and, pretty and all that. But the question is, it's probably going to cost us money to maintain it unless the neighbors and the Parks Collective and outside, sources chip in and make that happen. And B, we need revenue. We know that. We need it done right. Little starter homes would fit in with the neighborhood. So what I'm willing to do is there's a block party there. It's on, I believe it's at the 28th. It's Sunday. It's going to be at Clark Park. So what I'm hoping to find out is what the neighbors want, right? If the neighbors truly want a park, it's, the 28th, Sunday, starting at 1 p.m. if you guys want to go. If the neighbors want a park, we got to do what the constituents want, but the corollary is they have to use it, all right? The question is, are we setting a precedent here? We're going to sell all our parks? Of course not. It's very difficult to alienate any park. So if we wanted to alienate, say, Bicentennial Park, that would be a lot more difficult or impossible because state and federal money went into creating that park and so on. So the question is, take your pick, housing or a park. you know, and I'm going to leave that up to the neighbors. The constituents of Ward 6 need to decide, but they also need to commit to using that regularly. Otherwise, we're blowing a big opportunity, and I think one of the things the Parks Collective just said is they want to try to get people more aware of and use parks more frequently. So the discussion is simply how the process would work. And, you know, there's no urgency here. I mean, if we don't get it in this January, we got time, but we're weighing another park, possibly a very nice other park where they plant trees and all that, against housing, starter homes. So we got to weigh that as a council and think about it. But if we choose to sell that piece of land, we'd need to do it by resolution, and it would need to pass the state's muster. So I'll open the floor to anyone that has questions.
Counselor Peeler.
I have just a opinion and then also a question. And I'm not in favor of alienating any parkland. I don't know, and maybe it's because it's the changing of the times, or if it's just maybe an unactive recreation board or recreation business model. But the Clark Street Ballpark, the Galvin's Ballpark, and the Ridgewood Ballpark were the three ballparks for adult league softball. Those were the best ball fields in town. We used to go to those parks just to get on them. Clark's is probably a little bit more neglected. It's like less kept up, right? So, and it's not necessarily used for practices anymore. And then all the other fields are any other park that's got an upkept ball field is usually from community volunteerism, and Joe and the group dragging and putting clay in there, and that's just amazing for all the baseball areas in town. As far as New York State's concerned, I thought I heard a while back when this discussion was floated about Lakefront Park, about alienating, that New York State has a policy that's generally like the water cycle. It's a closed system of real estate, of land.
Right.
So if we alienate this park, we have to designate brand new land as park space.
Not necessarily. It
Okay.
depends on
I
the
thought
generally speaking, if we alienate a park like Washington Park or Jefferson Park,
Sure.
then we need to replace that acreage because that's has state and federal money that went into those parks. I did a little homework.
Okay.
Did you want to butt in?
I
Go
was
ahead.
just going to say, I think if we were to go in this process, we would work with legal on all of this,
Sure.
and there would be advisement on how you follow this process if you were to go down it. You do have to do some reconciliation on what you're doing with that park as you take that asset away and change it.
Which is why I say, you know, I just wanted to bring it up
Yeah.
for discussion.
No, that's good. No, I
So,
mean, we
yeah,
talked about Loomis Park earlier, and I think Loomis Park and the formation of that as parkland was because I think we partially alienated some other parkland, and we had to like add some. So like Loomis became a park.
Well, I could. That's
Well,
pretty
that was a
much.
donation.
It was a donation.
sorry.
yeah.
We try to do away with that, it goes back to the family.
Correct.
Oh, okay. So it's like a land trust.
Yep.
I thought it was because it was some other park got alienated or kind of absorbed.
It was a family gimme thing.
Well, again,
all the
if-
stuff you hear about at the Wegmans.
If we can resurrect interest in parks and recreation, I'm fine with leaving it a park. I mean, it was just brought up that this is some land we could use. There are other plots of land all over the city that we can definitely try to sell, but we'll leave it a park if they want a park, but they got to want a park.
I don't think using a park, me personally, I don't think using the park designates it as like an abandoned, right? You can't make people go there.
Right, but it could be improved on. The thing is, right now, it's a big open field crying out for something.
Let's get those
What that
bases back
something
in there and
is?
play some baseball.
Maybe baseball, you know? Why not?
Softball.
But I just wanted to bring it up. There is a procedure to it, and we can talk about this any old time. And back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor, for putting the effort in there. I know we are landlocked, and we would like to have more land to put houses on. So it's always a great option to talk about, and I look forward to hearing the feedback from the neighborhood. Next on our agenda is consideration of meeting minutes from August 6, 2025, and I will need a motion. Counselor Grimaldi, seconded by Counselor Petropoulos. Clerk, please call the roll on the meeting minutes.
Counselor Whitfield,
Aye.
Counselor Morocco,
Aye.
Counselor Petropoulos,
Aye.
Counselor Gilat,
Aye.
Counselor Grimaldi,
Aye.
Counselor Peeler,
Aye.
Counselor Lavin,
Yes.
Counselor Brennan,
Aye.
Mayor Valentino.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next is public comment. I'll remind the public to keep it to 3 minutes unless you have asked for extended time. And the first one I have on my list is Ann Hoyt. Hi, Ann.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm here for a couple of reasons. One is to announce that the Green Committee's sponsoring a native plant sale, and that's going to be September 27th from 8 to 1 Lakefront Park. We're hoping to kick off a rain garden initiative that day, also signing people up for that. We have access to perk test equipment, so we can do that for people to see if they're suitable, and we'd probably do installations in the spring. And we also hope to have composting bins to give away at this event. So I have a couple things for you here. One of them is just a review of what's going on with the resource recovery part, which I hope you decide to fund for the upcoming year. Just to remind you, it was built in 2020 and opened in 2021 with Jacob Fox as the CEO and James Nardozzi as the president, but that agreement fell apart and the park was not being used or developed until the city stepped in and kept it going. But in May, the town of Geneva set up the new resource recovery park with many of the options that the town currently offers its residents. So for $20 a year, residents can drop off recycling, and for $75 a year, you get a 52, I think it's 52,
Yep.
punch card that allows you to drop off 2 32-gallon bags of trash per punch. So when you think about the potential closure of the landfill and how much rates are going to go up for residents, that's going to offer a really big savings to them. One of the things that the county pretty much guaranteed was that we'd be paying for recycling also. So $20 a month to get rid of your recycling at the Resource Recovery Park. That's great. It's open Thursday, Saturday, 8:30 to 4:30. It's staffed. And right now, it's accepting cardboard recycling, glass recycling, general recycling, so you can stick your cardboard and your glass into the recycling bin. But if you want to separate it and get a better return for materials, you can do cardboard and glass separately, food waste collection, and metal recycling. So the metal recycling is a moneymaker. Let's see, what else? Oh, the vermiculture. So currently the employee is getting the vermiculture trenches going. So those should be producing a saleable product by next year. So, so the way it works is, well, okay, so I won't go into that. But I do want to add this, that the waste reduction, landfill diversion, and improved materials management group, which formed between the city and town several years ago, wrote this in their final report. Of primary concern is the potential for increased truck traffic, particularly heavy trucks. You know what? I'm going to give up on the mic and just talk. Particularly heavy trucks seeking to access the RRP for material truck load for collection, and the resultant increase in diesel emissions, vehicle noise, and potential for traffic accidents in Geneva's 6th Ward, an area already burdened with odors from wastewater treatment plant and facing persistent socioeconomic challenges such as lower housing values, homeless and lower household incomes. We recommend the city undertake a traffic study over the coming years as the RIRD's utilization rate increases in order to assess the impact on local traffic flows. More proactively, the city should consider increased signage and traffic enforcement to ensure that heavy trucks visiting the RRP do so in northern access roads to the industrial park, not via North Street and North. So I hope you enter this, and we plan to insert a flooding office facility if you do budget into upcoming water plans.
Thank you. Next, I have Josh Decker.
All right, good evening. Thank you, council members. My name is Josh Decker, and I've owned and operated Monaco's Coffee at 115 Washington Street for nearly 8 years now. I'm here tonight to address an ongoing and serious issue with my neighboring property owner, John Cordovani. Almost every day, he harasses my staff, my customers, and myself. He yells obscenities, intimidates people, and creates a hostile, uncomfortable, and at times unsafe environment for anyone to visit my business. This behavior is not new. I was warned by the previous owner, who ran the Normal Bread Bakery, that he would be a problem. Both that business and the veterinary office next door were frequent targets of his harassment, which spans almost 2 decades now. At the beginning, I tried to be as cooperative as possible. When he put up no parking signs in front, I didn't object. The problems began when he started yelling at my customers walking into my coffee shop during business hours and ordering people to move their cars, forcing me to involve the police and eventually get a restraining order. I even suggested a compromise at one point. You know, you move the signs closer to the street so no one can physically park their car there. He just directed his anger at pedestrians walking by and vehicles parked legally on the street. And this was just constant. I'm getting just bombarded with people coming in and looking shell-shocked all the time because this guy isn't nice when he asks people to do things. He's vicious. At that point, I turned to the city for help. After reviewing the records, the city attorney at the time confirmed that the parking spaces in question were public property. So the property that John was so tightly clenching, they weren't his. He didn't have leverage over them. When John realized he was losing control over those spaces, he briefly pretended to befriend me. For nearly 2 months, things were okay. But while I was away during January, the slow season, I left for a couple weeks. He used that time to slander me to my employees, trying to get them to quit and help him start his own cafe. That went beyond harassment. It was a calculated attempt to sabotage my business from the inside. Even knowing he doesn't own the parking spots, he still polices them like he does. He has no parking signs in his window to this day. When I asked the community for input on the Geneva community page on Facebook, I received more than 100 comments, emails, and messages from people who had also experienced this vicious behavior. Several reported that he has threatened violence with a weapon, which I have personally witnessed. I would be lying if I said that the thought of him going postal hadn't crossed my mind. I don't know what this guy is capable of. I don't know if he has weapons, and it seems like an imminent danger. Running a small business has been both the greatest challenge and the greatest joy of my life. We take on these risks because we believe in Geneva, because we know how vital small businesses are to the local economy, and because we want to create spaces that welcome people into our city. Harassment and sabotage like this make it nearly impossible to operate. Beyond hurting the coffee shop, it discourages visitors, drives away customers, and damages the image of our downtown as a safe and welcoming place. I continue to report incidents to the police, but I need help from the city. One immediate step would be enforcing the public parking in front of his property. That space belongs to the community, not to him, and proper enforcement would help reduce conflict and restore order. I'm asking the council to step in not only to protect small businesses like mine, but to safeguard the wider community, preserve confidence in our downtown, and uphold the reputation of Geneva as a place people want to live, work, and visit. I have some of the messages that I got from a variety of people, if anyone cares to look at them. But yeah, thank you for your time. Also, in terms of, if the city was to own those parking spaces, snow removal and stuff like that, I've been paying someone to remove the snow. John gets in everyone's face about it, and no one wants to plow it anymore. Someone slips and falls, is that on the city, as it is deemed public? Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
You have a copy?
Yep.
I'll take it.
The specific ask is important.
Thanks.
We'll pass that on.
Thank you.
Next, I have Ashley Brooks.
These are for me.
Hello, my name is Ashley Brooks. First, I want to thank everyone here that's working for choosing a profession that's to help people and really bring forth change. So thank you for that. And thank you for everyone else who cares so much about our community that you want to step in and be part of the change. So I'm speaking about hunger in Geneva, and I wanted to share my experience. Up until September 2024, I was a successful career woman, and I was hit with chronic illness that led me to having to file for permanent disability. During this time, I went into the system, and I learned how SNAP, which is food stamps, is calculated. At that time, I was granted $327 a month to live on. This is because SNAP does not count car payments, car insurance, any dollar over $1,000 for living costs. They count that as income. So my rent was $1,800. They don't count gas and electric, water bills, or trash. So their calculations are way off, and people can't survive. I also recently got back my lab results, and I have a culinary degree, and I was raised by a dietitian. Up till becoming sick, I knew how to eat, but after food stamps and food pantries for a year, I have extremely high cholesterol, and the only way to lower that is by eating healthy, which we can't do. But my situation, even though my story happened this way, we have 2 housing units in Geneva of all people on disability. And what I'm proposing today is that we come up with a waiver, just like trampoline parks have, that kids could go and jump, and no matter what they break, no one's responsible. We have so much food waste right here in Geneva that we could feed the community. We also have all these empty churches, and every single church has these kitchens that remain empty year round. We could be working with Wegmans, we could be working with the local businesses, the college, the schools, that the food waste is going home to families, that at the end of the day, the kids are getting the food from the cafeterias to bring home. I know after I spent 19 years a single mom, even when I had income, just to come home to a night I didn't have to cook would be great. There's also really no middle class, and with the inflation of food costs, very few people wouldn't be grateful for some extra groceries coming in. I also volunteer where we give food out twice a month in Geneva on Exchange Street. People with disabilities line up down the block with walkers, wheelchairs everywhere, an hour before we begin, and we run out of food before it's even done. Wegmans has so much food they're throwing out, but this is just one church, and they take what they're able to through volunteers. So at first, this would cost the city nothing. In time to have a food service coordinator, I think would be a great idea, but it's something that we could solve. And a lot of these kids are going to school and they're just hangry. You know, my son went through a period, he's a teenage boy, of malnutrition. We're raising our kids that we can't provide them nutrition. A lot of these kids are playing sports, teenagers, they eat you out of house and home. And we have a way that every single person in Geneva could eat like kings and queens. We have a way that all these children growing up that will never eat at a single restaurant in all of Geneva, that they could taste the food and they could be inspired like, hey, I want to be able to go to restaurants. You know, and everyone is so scared of liability. They care more about that they might get sued, that they'd rather see thousands of people in their own community go hungry. So why not come up with waivers and put an end to this? Why not use our churches? Not only that, the unity it would bring to our community and the sense that it would give our children. My son, when he got allowance from his grandmother, he asked for a ride and he brought home groceries, and he picked out all produce, and he said, Mom, I brought home groceries. And throughout the 19 years of being a single mom, before I got into the position of being a very high earner, he would take bags of money and be like, here, Mom, you know, kids are so aware, and our kids are growing up feeling like they have to survive, that they don't have a community, that they don't have help. But now when they're leaving and there's trays at the table, they're going to see a cake and be like, you know what, it's my grandma's birthday. They're going to see their little sister's favorite food. We're empowering them to be providers. We're filling them with a sense of pride instead of just helplessness, right? We're teaching them to be considerate of others. And none of those kids, I know so many kids, my son's very popular, my little sister's 12. I know so many kids, and they're growing up in single family households and by grandparents, and a lot of them can't even cook. Lastly, with all these people on disability, they're on disability because they have health issues and things wrong with them. And imagine having to buy gluten-free or dairy-free products. You're not eating. So many of these people are choosing to buy regular products that's causing them more issues. And I could personally say not being able to eat for my disorder is causing me to become sicker and sicker. So I just really want to focus on a free way that we could give back to our community and really empower our children and our community and bring unity and use all these empty churches.
Thank you. Next, I have Wendy Marsh requesting 5 minutes.
Hi, good evening. Wendy Marsh. Thank you for your service and your dedication to the city and your time tonight. As you know, Lakeview Health Services appeared before you at a special meeting on March 10th, although the meeting minutes are not clear as to what the ask was to the city at that early date. The community found out about this supportive housing project over a month later, and we've been playing catch up since. The community has been united in opposition to the location of the supportive housing project in the center of downtown. I won't repeat the numerous concerns that have been raised before you, the Planning Board, the IDA, and the Zoning Board of Appeals. The Planning Board narrowly approved the project at a 3-2 vote. The ZBA unanimously denied all the required variances needed for the project, and during that meeting, the applicant stated that it could not move forward without the variances. To a layperson, that would mean that the project is dead. You guys might even think that the project is dead. Unfortunately, that does not appear to be the case. The application has not been withdrawn. The IDA will hear the pilot application at its meeting on Friday. At a recent bid meeting, there was a continued discussion that this project could move forward and meet the September 11th deadline for funding. I have a call of action to the City Council tonight. If I understand the September 11th funding application deadline correctly, it's an application to be submitted to the New York Homes and Community Renewal. As part of that application, Lakeview must send a formal notification to the city manager because the project will be partially funded by the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program. The notification specifically asks if the municipality has any comments and directs such comments to be sent to the Division of Housing and Community Renewal. Both the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals have made their decisions, so the City Council could be in a position to take a position on this controversial project. I would ask the City Council consider passing a resolution in opposition to the project and provide that resolution to the Division of Housing and Community Renewal. If City Council is not willing to go on record in opposition to the project, we would ask that you, as our elected officials, ensure that city staff does not provide any formal support for the funding application for the project. It would be a terrible slap in the face to the volumes of community members that have taken the time to formally voice their opinion in opposition to the project and its location if the city goes on record in support of the funding of the project. I may be completely wrong on the application process. It is outside of my expertise. I would much rather talk about solid waste. So my apologies if my details are incorrect, but I have heard the September 11th deadline numerous times, and given the fact that this entire project is going to be funded by our taxpayer dollars in some fashion, I think it's impossible that any application would not include a position from the impacted municipality. I do trust that City Manager Hendricks might have more information on the application process because it is definitely outside of my wheelhouse. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next, I have John Taylor.
Good evening. So I just want to know what y'all going to do with the homeless people that's going to be getting evicted at the Gardens Apartments. I just see no talking this up for Chopless. Y'all just sit on your asses. I don't care about y'all talk about me cussing. It's my First Amendment.
Please.
It's my First Amendment.
I'm requesting that you keep it professional. It's a request,
Oh,
not a demand, a request, please.
But that's the thing. Y'all just sit on your asses, not doing anything. I know a couple of you guys are not going to be running, whatever. Y'all probably don't even give a fuck.
Easy. Now listen.
Hey, that's my First Amendment.
It's not, I will call this meeting to a recess if you're going to continue like that, and you
Are
will
you gonna
not be allowed
violate-
to speak in public.
Are you going to violate
It's
my
a
First
privilege, it's a privilege to come to public comment.
That's my First
It's not a
Amendment.
requirement. It's not a requirement.
It's
I
my-
do not have to have public comment in this meeting. It's not required to have a public comment. It's a privilege. So please respect the privilege. And if you read the rules of order of procedure, it'll tell you to address council as a whole in a professional manner. So please stay professional. I'm asking you politely. Otherwise, I'm going to call a recess.
I'm not going to violate my First Amendment right. I got the right to redress my government. I can cuss as long as I'm not using fighting words or a call to action of violence. I uphold the Constitution of the United States. I took my oath very seriously.
So do many others.
My oath doesn't.
Please get your point across, and please do it professionally.
Whatever. Anyway, you got Councilor Peeler saying I wasn't even in, because I'm not in his ward section. He don't even care. I asked you months ago, because I was trying to bring up something to you. You were like, you're in Ward 2? No. Oh, I don't want to go. I don't want to hear it. That was months ago. The other thing, the ethics board. You're going to get new people because they're not talking to the people that make complaints or anything. You're going to fire them, or you're going to dissolve the board. Because I'm tired of going to Nicole and asking about my complaints. I'm not hearing one damn thing. But y'all don't care about the homeless people that are getting evicted at the Garden Apartments. I'm speaking up for the people that can't defend themselves. So if you don't like my language, I don't care because it's my First Amendment. Your feelings don't trump my constitutional rights. So what is the plan for the homeless that's going to be homeless in the next couple of months or the following year at the Garden Apartments? Thank you.
Next is Hannah Lee. Is there a Hannah Lee in the audience? We'll see if she comes back. After Hannah, I have Emily Diarmith, or is it Diarmith?
I think she left as well.
Okay.
Or three.
We'll move on to Ari Manoff, and I apologize if I mispronounce. Last, it's difficult for me to read, but Anna Goodman? M.A. Goodman. My apologies.
It's okay, I just always write my name like that.
Okay.
First of all, I just want to thank everyone for their time this evening and for your consideration in what I'm about to say, because we haven't even gotten to this order of business this evening. I'm here in reference to your sidewalk project that you're imposing. I want to ask you a question wholeheartedly. I listened to what this young lady had to say about being disabled. I'm disabled from a head-on collision that it was merciful I didn't have 3 surgeries, and I struggle to get through life. I'm on a fixed income. I live with my significant other in his home that he's owned for 14 years. He's also a local business owner. What protocol did you use when you decided what houses you were going to mark and what package you were going to send out, and who you were deciding who was going to be paying for sidewalk repair with a 60-day notice? Otherwise, you were going to tack on the amount to have our sidewalks fixed, which are cracked and minor, compared to parts of. Have you looked all over the city? Have you looked up and down Castle Street? There's a lot of bad-looking sidewalks. There's a lot of sidewalks that have been repaired with blacktop, which is against code, by the way, all up and down. I have videos. I have pictures all over. You hand-selected certain houses on certain streets on Hillcrest Avenue, Brooks Avenue, Maxwell Avenue, and you bypassed a bunch of other streets and a bunch of other residents. What makes you think that we have that kind of money to just go ahead and pay for sidewalk cracks at this moment? We can barely make ends meet. We're on a fixed income. I'm on a fixed income. I had to drain my retirement from the University of Rochester, where I used to work, to pay taxes the last 2 years to help my significant other. Now you're demanding that we fix our cracked sidewalks, and if we don't in 60 days, you're just gonna fix it for us and then charge our taxes? Have you ever stopped and thought about what the residents in your city are going through? I don't sleep, I don't eat. I'm in the middle of medical crisis every day. I'm still treating for all my injuries. I was abused in the hospital, I have a permanent injury. I can never work again. Have you ever considered what the residents are going through when you decided this? Just a question. And I have an 80-year-old lady that lives across the street that was crying the night she got her package. She's lived in her house for 57 years and she lost her husband in the middle of the pandemic. So she doesn't know how she's going to afford to pay for her sidewalks that need to be repaired on her fixed income. She was crying. And I was in the middle of getting over pneumonia for 3 weeks. I didn't even want to go hug my neighbor who needed my help. I sincerely hope you all are going to really understand how this is making an impact on the people that you've hand-selected. You cannot ignore this project with the entire city and only pick a certain neighborhood and a certain echelon of people, because otherwise that can be misconstrued as discrimination. And it's absolutely not fair. So I sincerely hope that everyone will consider my plight, because I know I'm speaking for other people besides myself, and I'm speaking for an 80-year-old lady who's owned her home for 57 years, and she doesn't know how she's going to absorb these costs, these unreasonable costs that are being demanded. So please, I ask you to think twice before you impose something like this on people that can't afford to live and are trying to run a business. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have the city manager report.
Right. In the past month, we have welcomed a few new staff members, as well as advanced some important projects. We will be welcoming 2 new staff members on September 8th. Our Assistant City Manager, Taylor Youngs, will be joining the team. She will be taking on a role that is involved with parks and recreations, buildings and grounds, and some of the other important topics that were mentioned here tonight. And we have a new laborer that will also be joining our team. There's also some positive business and development in Geneva in the last month. Our Goodwill store officially opened on August 8th, employing approximately 35 people. And construction has resumed on the Dunkin' Donuts project located on North Street. There has been some environmental cleanup. They are now once again moving ahead, and hopefully we'll be able to progress. As far as housing development projects, the 585 South Exchange Street, the former OEO site, the group that's working as co-developers with council are scheduling some public meetings to talk about some preliminary site designs and hear from the community what could happen in that spot. The property is on Middle Street in Hallenbeck Ave. Cook Properties secured funding for their Phase 2 environmental, which will be for some single-family manufactured homes. And then Habitat for Humanity just went through the ZBA seeking a variance for approval on Crystal Street for some housing there as well. Other quick updates. We have been partnering with Ontario County to distribute composting kits to residents. The large composters went very quickly. I think they were 80 gallons, Joe? 50 gallons? They were huge. They were big. We didn't expect them. So did Councillor Gillette. You guys both got them. And we still have, I think, a few of the kitchen caddies as well. The Resource Recovery Park remains open on Thursdays and Saturdays unless there's a holiday. There's a holiday coming up in November that is definitely on a Thursday. That means the Resource Recovery Park will not be open that day. But if there's a holiday during the week, but it's not on Thursday or Saturday, the Resource Recovery Park is still open. We had some calls about how the holiday schedule. It's just Thursdays and Saturdays. Those are the days that it's open. Crews have been completing a lot of different things. Street improvements are actively underway. Milling and paving began yesterday. We'll be continuing through September 15th. Thank you to everyone for your patience as you move through these work zones. Definitely lots of city under repair. Public safety and community improvements have been priorities as well. Safety features have been added at the Exchange Street bus hub, the bus station, as well as there was some vandalism recently at the lakefront, which DPW and GPD have addressed. Code enforcement continues to actively monitor problem properties, and the Medias property has moved forward with quotes from that property owner. However, we have started with the process to create bids for demolition by the city should the property owner not continue in that process in a timely fashion. Again, that would start the Chapter 111 process. We've already formally started that process. If the property owner does not complete demolition, the city will complete demolition at the city's cost, which tends to be higher than a property owner's cost, and then provide that back to that property owner. And finally, Geneva was recognized as an AARP age-friendly community, a designation that reflects a commitment to supporting residents of all ages, and this work will need to continue through all of the different areas that we're talking about, from mobility areas to parks and other opportunities as well. So we'll be working with AARP on that designation.
Thank you. Next is
Can we, is there a possibility to ask a question?
Sure.
It's been a couple of months now since we've had 3 officers of our police department called into question, and I'm just wondering at some point whether we're going to hear something, because while I know it's not our job to do the investigation, it is our police department is running under a cloud, and I'm wondering if you've heard anything on timing at all from the authorities on this.
I have not heard anything from, I know that it has been turned over to, I believe, a Wayne County District Attorney, and it is progressing through them. I don't have any other updates.
Is there a way to send a letter of concern from us saying, you know, we've...
Yeah, we can, I don't know if we could do that. I don't see why we couldn't say that we'd like to.
Status report?
Yeah, we don't really get any reports on that because it's a pending investigation. David, I'm not sure.
Yeah, you can certainly ask, but in my experience, they're probably just going to say, well, you'll hear something when you hear something. They're not going to give you inside information, let's say, for example.
I understand that, but we do have the right to call our chief in and to do our own investigation if we're not hearing anything. This can't go on forever.
Well, there's a difference between the criminal investigation
Right.
that's ongoing and whatever investigation this council may choose to pursue on its own.
Right.
So, yes.
Thank you.
Next is unfinished business, and the first order we have is an ordinance, second reading of an ordinance amending chapter 273-33, alternate dumping and storing violation procedures, presented by our Director Venuti.
Yes, thank you. Neil wasn't able to make tonight's meeting, so I'll review the agenda briefing with you. This is second reading. Chapter 273 ordinance is our alternate dumping, storing violation procedures. Basically, the concept is looking to increase revenue to enforce this code more than disposal cost, which is currently written, and bring it into line similar with our other structure on enforcement matters, including the charging for the actual cost of picking up and disposing such items, and tacking on a 50% administration fee.
Need a motion? Counselor Petropoulos, seconded by
Second.
Counselor Peeler. Any discussion?
Wake up.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Whitfield.
Aye.
Counselor Morocco.
Aye.
Counselor Petropoulos.
Aye.
Counselor Gilat.
Aye.
Counselor Grimaldi. Oh, he stepped out. Alrighty. Counselor Peeler.
Aye.
Counselor Lavin.
Aye.
Counselor Brennan.
Aye.
Mayor Valentino.
Aye.
Motion's carried with or without Counselor Grimaldi.
Okay. Next is a second reading of an ordinance amending chapter 277 sanitary sewers and sump pumps, presented by our Director Venuti.
Thank you. Again, this is second reading, the Stormwater Task Force. This is one of their big initiatives that came out of our months-long summaries of what we worked on to help the city in events of storm systems and improving things. So our current code indicates that you cannot connect your sanitary storm system into the storm, or opposite storm into the sanitary. This gives us a little more teeth in trying to create something similar to the sidewalk inspections, that when a property does come up for sale, prior to the transfer of ownership, we would create an inspection where we would go in and identify very quickly if the sewer is connected or not, and ask them to disconnect it.
Thank you. I need a motion.
So
Counselor
moved.
Gilat, seconded by Counselor Peeler. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Sure. Counselor Peeler first, and then Counselor Brennan.
I would like to be directed to the portion of the ordinance update that talks about the water handling of the sump pump and sewer tie-in. I recently had a neighbor who is getting the work done, and they're getting some pushback from the contractor about how they can handle the water. And I personally don't believe the contractor was correct and/or updated in how the water needs to be expelled, or some type of collection apparatus that the homeowner was told that they were required to have. So is there a way we can get like the specifics of the ordinance so that our homeowners can be confident when they have these discussions with contractors who are going to be moving this water outside their homes?
Certainly. Our general municipal code is online at E-Code 360 in the 277 chapter.
277?
Specifically handles sanitary sewers, but I can certainly send you the exact paragraphs that we can share.
All right, I appreciate that. I can probably dig it out from that line too. I've been to 360 several times, and I appreciate that. Thanks, Joe.
Counselor Brennan.
I wasn't here in August for the first reading, but I've read the minutes from August meeting, and I'm familiar a little bit with the chapter 277. I'm concerned about this ordinance in a couple of ways. One, there's going to be occasions when a property is sold privately, and the city would never know about that sale, similar to sidewalks, wherein private sales occur. Therefore, the seller never knows their responsibility to take care of the sidewalks and, or in this case, the sump pump, and the buyer doesn't know either. So they if you will, pardon the pun, slips through the cracks. There's a flaw there. The second one is I happen to know, because I used to work for code enforcement, that there are simply situations where the water cannot be discharged anywhere. And I'm not suggesting that it's okay for it to be into the sanitary system, but I'm suggesting where in this ordinance is there relief, if you will, for situations that are, what I will say, virtually impossible to solve. So I'm concerned in that way about passing any legislation that has flaws in it, which is frankly one of my mantras. We have a variety of pieces of legislation which contain flaws, but tonight I'm just going to keep it to sump pumps. Can you address that, please?
I believe you can make a motion to table this for further discussion. It has been reviewed by legal. Certainly not everything fits a mold, right? Any amount of diverted stormwater will definitely help the sanitary backups that people routinely experience during heavy rain events and heavy snow melts. Are we going to get every single one removed at the time of the sale, and then when we leave, that owner owns the house for 20 more years? Are we going to be back in there? Most likely not. But it will reduce the cost that the city spends on processing stormwater, number one, and keep those sanitary lines just for sanitary sewer. We know there's quite a bit of rain gutters tied into these systems. That's another thing that we should be looking at. Not all properties, like you say, have a place to put it, but one could argue that it could get to the street or tie into the street system at a cost, right? To divert it out of the sanitary.
All right. Well, I don't want to be the guy that says, let's stop progress at its tracks. I appreciate it that some progress is better than none, but I have to say I am considering tabling it because there could be some improvements made to it before we turn it into real legislation. I don't know what support I'm going to get. I know I'm a little late to the party. We'll see. Thank you.
Question for legal. If we did pass this ordinance and there was a property that was in the situation where it had no means to comply with this request, would there be the opportunity for, I call it a variance or an exception, if those facts were brought forward?
I imagine that would be the case.
Okay.
That would really be at Neil's direction, really, depending on the situation.
Yeah, I'm just thinking in our downtown area more than the residential areas would be one of the challenges. So I agree with what you're saying, but I don't want to stop progress either, because there's a lot of properties, residential properties, that are knowingly or unknowingly violating this. Councilor Peeler.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, because I want to be efficient and expeditive in this. I know that certain modifications to ordinances and laws can be made with minor vernacular changes, and we don't have to reset the process to go back to a first reading. Would this possible exception be too dramatic or drastic where we would have to be reset back to a first reading? So if we tabled this and then made these improvements, or took a look at what John is suggesting, and then would we go back into a second reading process?
Yeah, it really depends on the scale of the changes, but it could well be that we reset and go back to the first reading.
So there's a risk. There's just a general risk that we'd have to go back to the first reading.
Yeah, it depends on the nature of the changes. I mean, that would be something probably to discuss with Neil. And what
with legal?
With Neil.
Oh, Neil.
Yeah.
It's like that's you. Okay.
Yeah, I think, passage in the second reading makes sense, and leaving it, leaving the caveat with code enforcement to understand that if somebody provided evidence that it wasn't feasible to redirect that water, I mean, we're going after the low-hanging fruit. We're spending $16 million on ATAD, and we're at capacity. So for me, making movement to increase capacity with this legislation makes sense. That's just my 2 cents.
Well, that's kind of my question. That's a component of my question. If we were to pass this with the second reading, and then make the adjustment based on some common sense exceptions, would it have to go into another process of first reading, second reading?
Yes.
Okay.
You can make changes after the fact, yes.
Steve, does passing the second reading pass the ordinance?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go with John because I've been in an awful lot of houses and probably 3/4 of the houses in the city have floor drains. Floor drains go right into the sanitary sewer. So, I mean, we're probably, if we're gonna go into this kind of a thing, we need to address that. Because there's probably more water going into our sewer system from floor drains and basements than going in from a septic, or from a sump pump.
Without Mr. Brayman here, I believe this targets sump pumps directly,
It does.
not floor drains or,
No, but I'm just saying, if we're gonna go looking at infiltration from basements, I mean, so the guy instead just puts cap on his sump pump, lets it run in his floor drain, and we're defeating, you know what I'm saying?
It
If
would-
we're gonna cover it, let's cover it all.
Right,
Not
it-
cover it as a little piece, and the guy's you know, I don't know.
You just described what my basement was when I bought the house. It was a floor drain.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been in a lot of houses in the city, and all the old houses, which 90% of the city is old houses, have floor drains in their basements. So, I mean, I would second John with put it off a month and let Neil take another look at it, and, I mean, it's not gonna kill us to take a month. I mean,
2 months.
I thought we already had an ordinance on sump pumps that they couldn't be pumped in.
Let's,
Nope.
Mayor,
That's why
We're
perhaps,
giving it teeth. That's all it is, the difference.
Mayor, may I make a motion that we table this?
You
In
sure
this
can,
case-
sir.
In this case, in the interest of improving the legislation, to include perhaps Pat's recommendations and to include some of the concerns I have, and perhaps we can just take a second look at it and not put it off, Mr. Venuti, for 6 months. I really promise you to do this in the next couple of months, if we can do
Council,
that.
motion to table, and a second stops discussion.
I'll
So
All right.
second it.
we got a motion to table by Council Brennan and a second by Council Grimaldi. Clerk, please call the roll on tabling the second reading of this ordinance.
Counselor Whitfield?
Aye.
Counselor Morocco?
Aye.
Counselor Petropoulos?
Aye.
Counselor Gilat?
Aye.
Counselor Grimaldi?
Aye.
Counselor Peeler?
Aye.
Counselor Lavin?
Aye.
Counselor Brennan?
Aye.
Mayor Valentino?
Aye.
Motion to table is carried.
Moving on to new business, we have first reading of an amendment to Chapter 350-7 Fences and Hedges and Walls, and I will make a motion to table this because we are not prepared at this time to move this forward. So I'll look for a second. Counselor Gilat, clerk, please call the roll on tabling this ordinance.
This is a bad one.
Counselor Whitfield?
Aye.
I'll take pictures.
Counselor Morocco?
Aye.
Counselor Petropoulos?
Aye.
Counselor Gilat?
Aye.
Counselor Grimaldi?
Aye.
Counselor Peeler?
It used to be this way,
Nay.
and they changed it.
Counselor Lavin?
Aye.
Spike fences.
Counselor Brennan?
Aye.
Mayor Valentino?
Aye.
Motion to table carried.
Next is a resolution setting a public hearing to override the property tax cap presented by our city comptroller.
Thank you, Mayor. So, as the mayor just mentioned, resolution is just setting a public hearing so the public can comment for, what do we got here? October 1st. So, during budget time, we always have the property tax cap to discuss whether we override or not. This just sets a public hearing for the public to comment.
Need a motion for the public hearing? Counselor Gilat, seconded by Counselor Peeler. Any discussion on setting the public hearing? Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Whitfield?
Aye.
Counselor Morocco?
Aye.
Counselor Petropoulos?
Aye.
Counselor Gilat?
Aye.
Counselor Grimaldi?
Aye.
Counselor Peeler?
Aye.
Counselor Lavin?
You vote aye in anticipation of voting no when after the hearing.
Just aye for now? Okay. Counselor Brennan?
Aye.
Mayor Valentino?
Aye.
Okay, the motion's carried.
Next is a resolution setting the public hearing for the 2026 budget by our city comptroller.
Okay, so similarly, we're, at budget time, we set a public hearing so the public can comment on the budget. The budget will be presented on September 9th, and the public hearing will be on September 23rd.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Counselor Peeler, seconded by Counselor Petropoulos. Any discussion on setting the public hearing? Counselor Peeler.
Real quick, I just really strongly urge the public to show up for that. It's often not really seen until later in the process, and I think the public coming in at the beginning is important.
I concur. Come down.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Whitfield,
Aye.
Counselor Morocco,
Aye.
Counselor Petropoulos.
Aye.
Counselor Gilat,
Aye.
Counselor Grimaldi,
Aye.
Counselor Peeler,
Aye.
Counselor Lavin,
Aye.
Counselor Brennan.
Aye.
Mayor Valentino.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next is a resolution amending the original issuance of bond for public improvements presented by our city comptroller.
Thank you, Mayor. So we discussed this a little bit earlier. This is the ATAD project. Originally, the bond resolution was for a little over 9.2 million. The bids came in, and we need to add, or we're requesting to add, an additional 7 million to that bond. This is a 0% interest borrowing from the EFC, which is the Environmental Facilities Corporation. There's also a little over $2.3 million in grant funds that will be deducted from the total 16 million. This is giving the city the authority to borrow for the full 16, which will then be reduced by the grant funds of 2.3 million.
Okay, I need a motion.
So moved.
Counselor Peeler, seconded by Counselor Gilat. Discussion.
Can we have the town do it?
The borrowing?
Since they're gonna benefit 90% of it, can they take the bond out?
No, because it's under the grant program. I think we have to do it because we're the grant
For
recipient.
the EFC, I believe the 0% interest
Only
portion.
goes to us.
Can we hold off until we get a sense of what's being charged against our partners on this?
I
Joe
don't
can.
know
Director?
the time
If I
frame.
can speak on
Yeah.
the contract. Bids were taken on June 26th with a 60-day notice of award timeframe. That put us to last week. So we have asked the contractors for 4 of the contracts to hold their price guarantee for another 30 days, which gets us into September. They don't have to do that, and costs will, of course, rise on a rebid. The tank bid, we had to get other bids because nobody bid it the first time, so we still have time on the tank bid portion of it. But as a whole, the time frame is of the essence.
There's also, sorry, 3 things just to add here at the bottom. There's no debt impact in 2026. All payments would begin in 2027. This is sewer fund only, so it does not impact the general fund or the water fund directly. And we anticipate about $260,000 coming off of sewer debt this year. This would add about 465. So an additional 200 all in.
Okay. I think this is important not only for the city of Geneva and future growth, but our ability to support growth in the surrounding communities. And I would caution the 90% that was just thrown out, because
Well, it's probably higher than that,
90% of this, what we just heard earlier, was 14 and 3. So my
That's how much
calculation,
they pay, not how
14
much they use.
Benefit, right?
that's how much they use.
Well,
Clarification: we have
What's-
meters.
what's
You
the
just heard the
figure
director tell you.
I know.
We have meters that said 14% and 3%. So I just, let's look at
Okay.
factual information. Let's not just throw numbers out there.
Well, I was just looking at the number of units coming into the system.
I understand that.
You know, in
But
15
there-
years, we've had
it
less
is
than 100
metered.
units added.
If the meter said 90%, I'd be supporting you 100%.
Okay.
And the negotiations on future contracts continues regardless of this project.
Definitely.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Whitfield,
Aye.
Counselor Morocco?
Aye.
Counselor Petropoulos?
Aye.
Counselor Gilat?
Aye.
Counselor Grimaldi?
Aye.
Counselor Peeler?
Aye.
Counselor Lavin?
Aye.
Counselor Brennan?
Aye.
Mayor Valentino?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next is a resolution that was added at the beginning, a resolution placing a 6-month moratorium on all outstanding sidewalk-related code violations, presented by Councilor Petropoulos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Basically, we already heard from one of our citizens about the impact these are having. My phone's been ringing off the hook. It's been, basically, I was sent the letter that was sent out. And I think it's a little ham-handed, a little harsh, right before school taxes are due. And again, you know, I did some drive-bys on Brook and Maxwell, and I didn't notice. I grew up in New York. That's bad sidewalks. This was, it's an inch out of whack, and it's going to cost 15 grand. You got 60 days to come up with it. Seriously? Then I went and took my favorite little Ward 5 route, Rose, Folger, and John, and yeah, what sidewalks? So yeah, I think they're being a little too selective. So in the meantime, this moratorium doesn't erase anything. It doesn't cost anything. It just gives council and staff and the neighbors time to come up with a better solution. Do we split the difference? Do we find grant money for it? What do we do? But basically, in the value for your tax dollars, you know, we're paying high enough taxes. I'm paying them too, you know, and my sidewalk's downtown. Maybe I don't have to worry. But if somebody breaks it, doing
Counselor, can I ask, that could be part of the discussion.
Oh,
Let's
my
get it
sorry.
on the table, and then we can
All
open
right,
up for
good.
discussion.
My bad. Fine. That's.
And you so move?
Yes, I just what? That's fine. Yes, so moved.
Second.
Second by Councilor Peeler. Now we can get into discussion. So yes, please take off. If you got more, add to it.
Really, I think this would tell our citizens that we do in fact care and we do listen. And again, we have 6 months to go through our budget, see if anything exists to help out with sidewalks. And, you know, save it for the really egregious ones, the ones that are cracked, the ones you're going to trip on. Keeping in mind that if somebody trips on a sidewalk while looking at your cell phone, and again, I can go over this with legal, but you know, the burden of proof's on them. Finally, if the city were to, and this again is one possible option, if the city were to take over all the sidewalks, yes, the city would be liable, but maybe the city might do a little better job of evening things out and making sure everything works. Again, there are many options, but right now I want to give the people of Geneva, particularly the ones that have had violations issued since July 31st, a chance to breathe, and us a chance to figure it out, and you know, the neighbors a chance to talk to us. And with that,
Director Venuti?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just to kind of clarify this process for everyone, and I thank the speaker for coming up and telling her story. It's not selective enforcement. It's not egregious picking on a certain neighborhood. The city received a complaint here in this office, here at one of these meetings, from a resident who fell and made a public complaint. That complaint encompassed the entire area. There was 57 properties that received the complaint. Our public works and our code team work together when there's a property that comes up for sale that's very clear in the 306-7 code of cleaning, maintaining, and repairing sidewalks, and also when we receive a complaint. So that's how the process in this particular situation came about. Someone turned in an entire neighborhood, basically.
Order. Public speaking is over, and the director is right. It's complaint based. It's not something code goes out and does. Councilor Gilat, and then Councilor Peeler.
Phone has not been ringing off the hook, but the main complaint I received and I shared with the city manager was the letter itself. Pretty strong letter. I thought the turnaround was too short. Construction right now, it's impossible to find anybody, even if you have the money to fix a sidewalk. It's impossible to find somebody. And concrete's, cost of concrete's sky high. Anyway, I think I would like to see the letter look at that process, because it wasn't just sidewalks, it was another resident that had a issue with the lawn, or a complaint there. As long as I've been here all my life, it's always been an issue. It's always a homeowner's responsibility to fix the sidewalk. It's always been that way. So it's a tough one to try to correct. I think it's worth looking into and discussing, especially now it's budget season, but I don't know how to attack. That's a tough one to attack.
And staff and I have spoken already about the letter, and we can work with legal on our letters, and we've talked about this before. I think you'll see that's part of the conversation on some of our other enforcements, grass notices, those kinds of things. There is definitely certain language that has to be strong in those letters, but there's also other language that can be added in. And I also know that our team has worked with property owners in the past and will continue to do that. I don't know that it says that currently in the letter about, all of those things, and we've done that for sales of property. The sidewalks have gone into escrow, those types of things, depending on weather, contractor availability, all of that.
Councilor Peeler.
Yeah, this is a hot topic, and like Pete said, it's old, right? It's real old, and as homeowners, and we share and we empathize because it's our sidewalks are problematic too, and we have this catch-22 in the city of Geneva, and unless I'm wrong, any type of accident on your sidewalk, you're liable for as a homeowner and a property owner. I'm pretty sure of it. And especially if the sidewalk is a component of the injury, meaning all or some of the injury could have been avoided by a well-kept sidewalk or a sidewalk that is up to the city's rules. So any type of warning about your sidewalk could also be seen as something on your radar so that you're not exposed to an accident. And then any type of hardship that you're feeling is going to be feeling a lot worse when you're sued. So, and that might be covered under your homeowner's insurance, but your homeowner's insurance is going to blast up, and that's going to be a permanent issue. Now, I think the sidewalk policy in this city needs to be reworked and rethought out, mainly because I believe there is a significant portion of sidewalks that are actually damaged by the city. And we've got trees in our easements that are uprooting the sidewalks and lifting them up, creating huge gaps. My son recently fell on his bike because he hit a 4-inch gap in a sidewalk and just endoed right over his bike. And it was bad. And that was on Washington Street. And I told him, hit the bumps and try to ramp over them. You can make it fun. But he wasn't looking. He was checking something else, and he endoed. And are we going to sue the homeowner? No. I believe over-litigious society is one of the problems in this country, right? I know how he got a lesson in first aid. So, but more importantly, there's other issues too. For example, there's a manhole in the middle of my sidewalk, and my sidewalk has now completely split around the manhole. Am I required to fix that? That's not my manhole. I don't cause that metal to swell and contract every winter, right? And that's a piece of city property that now is making me exposed to liability. Yeah. So I think there's I think there should be some common sense brought back to this policy where the party of neglect is part of the solution instead of just slapping you with, hey, this is a problem, you got to fix it. So I'm not going to vote yes on the moratorium. I don't think it actually might solve what we want it to solve. But I do think before the year's out, we need to have a sit down about sidewalks.
Councilor Brennan.
Well, I am going to vote in favor of the moratorium because I, again, think that this legislation needs to be revised and looked at carefully. And I'd recommend an ad hoc committee be formed, even briefly, just for a month. I know it's budget season, but we could talk with Code, we could talk with Mr. Venuti, we could get some more facts and figures. I'd like to discuss possible more creative solutions when there are sidewalk problems. There's a variety of ways to look at this. The people that have spoken here tonight, as well as have spoken to me already prior to tonight, have a good point. It's a big burden on it. Let's look at it.
Okay, we're entering budget season. This will be interesting to kind of add that in. My question on this and it very well could be legal, because I can support the 6-month moratorium, but what I don't want to do is I don't want to include property for sale. I would like to keep any property that's going for sale to be inspected and held to this code. So if we do a moratorium, am I going to exclude sale of property? Or is there a way we can modify the resolution to include sale of property?
Yeah, that's up to you to craft the scope of the moratorium.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
How is that not discriminatory?
But it's not.
It's not.
So
But-
I will make a motion that
One
will,
second, Steve.
that will place, hold on, that will place the 6-month moratorium on code violations with the exception of sale of property. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, David?
If that's what you want.
That's what I want.
Sounds good.
Okay. So that's, my motion is to modify the resolution to not put a moratorium on sidewalks for the sale of property. Second?
Can I add to that?
Yeah, sure.
Because 6 months shows up in February. I don't want these people in February having to try to find concrete.
Yep.
If we're gonna do it, let's make it 9 months and make it spring, because nobody's gonna put in the sidewalk and do a good job before April.
So since I don't have a second on my amendment to the resolution, my amendment to the resolution is a 9-month moratorium on the sidewalk code with the exception of the sale of property.
Sounds
I'll
like it's
second.
friendly. If he seconds, it's friendly, which means you don't need a full vote, correct? So, just what's happening, Counselor Petropoulos tried to second that vote, which means it's a friendly amendment. No, you can, because now they don't have to vote. It just becomes that becomes
Right.
the resolution.
Which is
Ju-
good.
Just not to overcomplicate, I think this frankly is a city manager's role and place, and as much as we can give her time limits, try and manage her that way, I think she gets the message, give her a deadline, say, come back to us with something.
Well, we can come back.
I was gonna say, I would say this is a policy decision, though, that you're deciding. It's not a city manager. If you want to say, we want a policy to
Give us a-
help people with low income on their sidewalks, or we want to set aside funding, things like that, parameters. But it is a policy decision that you're
Sure, in
discussing.
the end, but you could come back with here's what I would
Okay.
do as a city manager.
Let me move this along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have an amendment for, just for clarity, City Clerk, for 9-month moratorium with the exception of sale of property. And I need a vote, call the vote on the amendment,
No, on the resolution as
the
amended.
amended resolution.
Yes.
You don't-
Yeah. Yep. If you're done with discussion.
Everybody good with discussion?
Yeah.
Okay.
The whole thing we're voting.
Yes. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Whitfield,
Aye.
Counselor Morocco.
Aye.
Counselor Petropoulos.
Aye.
Counselor Gilat.
Aye.
Counselor Grimaldi.
Aye.
Counselor Peeler.
Nay, because I think it opens these homeowners up to litigation.
Counselor Lavin.
Aye.
Counselor Brennan.
Aye.
Mayor Valentino.
Aye.
Motion carried.
I've been doing this for over 20 years, and that might have been the most complicated one I've done.
Uh-huh. Hey, that was put in originally 4 councils ago.
Okay, we're moving. Appointments to boards and commissions, do we have any?
Yes, we do. The LDC recommends appointment of Terry Williams. Ms. Williams' term will expire September 2nd, 2028. I so move.
We have a second? Counselor Petropoulos, any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Whitfield.
Aye.
Counselor Morocco.
Aye.
Counselor Petropoulos.
Aye.
Counselor Gilat.
Aye.
Counselor Grimaldi.
Aye.
Counselor Peeler.
Aye.
Counselor Lavin.
Aye.
Counselor Brennan.
Aye.
Mayor Valentino.
Aye.
Motion carried.
The Police Budget Advisory Board recommends the appointment of Mike Reeder, who will slide into a term that expires at the end of this year. I so move.
Second by Counselor Petropoulos, any discussion? Counselor Peeler?
Just for clarity, it's like a 3-month position? And then it goes up for another reappointment or another member?
Yes.
To fill out a
Thank you.
position.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Whitfield.
Aye.
Counselor Morocco. Counselor Petropoulos.
Aye.
Counselor Gilat.
Aye.
Counselor Grimaldi,
Aye.
Counselor Peeler,
Aye.
Counselor Lavin,
Aye.
Counselor Brennan,
Aye.
Mayor Valentino.
Aye.
Motion carried.
His- Historic District Commission recommends the appointment of Jessica Redmond to fill open position. I so move.
I'll second.
Second by Counselor Grimaldi. Discussion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Whitfield,
Aye.
Counselor Morocco, Counselor Petropoulos,
Aye.
Counselor Gilat,
Aye.
Counselor Grimaldi,
Aye.
Counselor Peeler,
Aye.
Counselor Lavin,
Aye.
Counselor Brennan,
Aye.
Mayor Valentino.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Lastly, we have mayor and council reports, and I'd like to do this without bandstanding and focus on council reports, so I'll start with Counselor Brennan.
Well, let's see here. The Historic Districts Commission did not meet recently. I do not have a report from Mr. Burrell about firewood sales because he is away in Maine, and he promises that he,
Did it last week.
but I know you did. But there's, Tom, he never sleeps. Anyway, don't have anything on that. The Shade Tree Committee did meet several times, and mostly they updated their plans for the fall season because they have over 100 trees which they would like to distribute throughout the city. And see if they can, we did that successfully last fall. Hobart and William Smith were the recipients of about 16 of them, but we need to find homeowners that are willing to take these trees under their wings, so to speak. The Shade Tree Committee will identify the species. The city will take responsibility for the planting thereof, but the homeowner has to take the responsibility, pardon me, for watering those trees for the first few, I don't know how many months, but for a while anyway. But as I say, there's over 100 trees that are available through the Shade Tree Committee. Again, I was away last month, but I'm aware of some of the discussions that occurred, and one of the presentations was from Chief Evelyn regarding e-bikes and e-scooters, and I didn't want to let that matter go by, if you don't mind. It is a concern. The police have very little ability to do much about it, and I realize that enforcement, regardless of whatever laws or regulations are in place, is still very difficult because the e-bikes and e-scooters can go pretty much wherever they want, even if there aren't streets involved. But I would like to recommend that, because Chief Evelyn suggested this, I would like to take this opportunity to consider, if not this council, maybe next year's council, again, an ad hoc committee put together so that we could look at local and stronger ordinances. This is a situation that we should be proactive about. It's not going to go away. It will get worse. I'm not talking about helmets per se. I'm talking about the danger to everybody else that's not on that e-bike or e-scooter. It's real. Probably many of us have some close calls. I've got 2 close calls under my belt here. So I would recommend the possibility of an ad hoc committee to consider with the, at least one police sergeant, and possibly Mr. Venuti would have somebody that could have a point of view about how this should be done. The other thing I'd like to request is a larger conversation about the housing issues. There are several issues wrapped into one. I'm aware of some empty and, I don't want to use the word abandoned, but I'm aware of some empty and vacant houses that exist inside the city limits. They're almost entirely privately owned. But again, my past experience has shown that with strategies and with possibly some prodding, you can take some actions to get those homeowners to take some actions on those houses. It's not an easy task, but it's worthy of looking at because that would solve some of the issues that we have here. We can't wait entirely for developers to do all of our work for us. Again, an ad hoc committee for that. I also think that it ties in with some of the other things that we discuss from time to time, like short-term rentals. This is part of the housing conversation. There are some this is a little bit going outside of the outside of the scope here, but I'm aware of the Castle Creek daylighting conversations that Mr. Nicholson puts on Facebook, and they're always really very well done. They really are, and I think it's an intriguing proposition. It's not new. We talked about this in 2008 and 9, in 2010. It's the former director of economic development, David West, also talked about it. It's a very, very big deal, but it would affect positively a variety of neighborhoods if we could form a plan, or if you will, some kind of directive towards that. And one other thing I'd like to point out in this conversation is that this is what everyone fails to recognize. It always involves money. It's big money. It's money somewhere. And so when people say they should do something about it, or the city should do something about it, that's really missing the mark. But we could look at strategies again on how to fund just the purchase of some of these houses that would be affected by the daylighting project. We should talk about that anyway. That's the end of my soapbox. Thank you.
Councilor Lavin.
Yeah, thanks. As you can see from all the work going on downtown, the Ward 1 down Seneca Street is being redone. I wanted to give a special shout out to Colin Pritchard, the Presbyterian minister, who walked out, put a sign on his parking lot and said, "Park here while the road's being fixed." And a lot of the people who were facing, older people particularly, were facing having to figure out how to get down the hill if they were going to park down there, were able to go in there, and he just took the bull by the horns and did it. I congratulate him for that. I also suggest the council get a chance while they can to go down to the portion of South Main as it's being stripped and no parking there, to see what it looks like with no parking along the east side of South Main Street. I know the experts will tell us that if we made less parking, it would be more open and the cars would probably go faster. That's an enforcement issue, but it's beautiful there without the cars. It's safer for the pedestrians, for the visibility of pedestrians. And I think while you get a chance to look at it, I'd like to revisit at some point getting parking off that side of South Main. I don't know that it would excite all the professors who drive in from distance points far and want to walk into their office next door, but the colleges certainly have enough parking on the campus without those slots being taken. Just worth taking a look at. The IDA obviously has been in the news a lot. I don't need to tell you much about it because Wendy Marsh has been here to tell us the projects that are coming. That's mainly what the IDA has been looking at. There are rumors of a potential buyer, but we haven't heard the details of that yet on the GEDC. But more to come as details come out, if that's possible. Big white elephant on the back of the city, in my opinion, and the IDA drives that ship. So other than that, I think we're fine.
Councilor Peeler.
Thank you. The planning board did meet last month, and we heard a lot about it. But there was some things that also happened during that planning board meeting. There was a subdivision application that was approved, and also the seeker was approved for the Lakeview facility. So and of course they approved some minutes.
How'd they do a seeker?
There was a seeker that they read through at the meeting, and
You can't do a seeker without CBAs first.
well, the seeker was done at the meeting.
Oh, okay, it's illegal.
Just so you know. That's a fact. So that's factual.
That's fine.
So anyhow, I also want to kind of pledge support that I believe a council resolution in opposition of this Lakeview Mental Health Facility going into the heart of our downtown and in our historic district is well within our purview. It's perfectly acceptable. The opposition to this facility is unified in that no one is against building a facility of this kind, or that there is some kind of imaginary denial of the need for the facility, but putting it in this spot is wholly inappropriate for both the neighborhood, the businesses, and our historical community. I also would like to echo the e-bike situation. I had probably half a dozen mishaps over the past week, and I'm finding it increasingly on 5 and 20 toward Walmart in the town. And we've got e-bikes traveling 35, 40 miles an hour. These are souped up machines, and because of debris or glass on the road, they're darting right into 5 and 20. And here you are going 45 and they're going 35. There's no turn signals on these bikes. There's no traffic control devices on these bikes. And you know, you're playing Frogger out there and someone's going to get hurt.
See the guy going against traffic? Doing that same thing.
Yeah, and you're supposed to be going with traffic on a bike. So there's really it's about bicycle education on top of that. I also want to congratulate some of the new businesses that are opening in our community recently. We have some new businesses that are opening, and I recommend all residents kind of check it out. I know you got your local favorites that you're accustomed to, but there's nothing wrong with checking out some new spots that are opening. If you see a new storefront popping open, just pop in and see what they have. Because that's important for our local businesses to thrive, because they're taking a risk and an investment in Geneva. So maybe just give them a look-see, pop in the door. That's all I have. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Councilor Grimaldi.
I did attend the Housing Authority meeting, and it was pretty calm for once. They did talk about garden apartments a little, but otherwise it went pretty smoothly, so that's me.
Councilor Gilat.
Okay, Police Budget Review Board. They've been meeting, and they're working on submitting the budget recommendations for the Geneva Police Department for consideration by council, which I assume I'm going to be the one presenting it. So keep you up to date on that. Bid, this is a little long one, so bear with me. First Friday is coming September 5th. Some highlights include fully loaded 315th opening at 444 Exchange Street. I've been noticing the signs forever. And I think it's going to be a really unique idea. Stuffed baked potatoes, etc. I think it'll fly. I think it's a great idea. Free bid sponsored historic bike tour along the lakefront, bike rental included. Pre-register on the bid website under events. Live from Linden beginning at 6:30 with music by Big J Blues. Dove Block exhibit opening from 5 to 7 p.m. with music and refreshments. Bid's last Music Monday was August 11th. The events were a great success. They plan to continue to bring this free event to downtown in 2026 season. Bid District welcomes Drumstock this Saturday, September 6th, from 11 a.m. to midnight. Wheels in Geneva is a car show coming to downtown Geneva on Sunday, September 14th, from 9 to 3 in Seneca Street parking lot. The show is brought to you by Revved Up Events and is a fundraiser for the Bid's beautification efforts. The Bid is thrilled to welcome hundreds of car enthusiasts downtown. The Bid's Keep America Beautiful grant has allowed for the purchase of 6 new cigarette receptacles to be placed at the lakefront to help combat litter. Look for those along with new no smoking signage in the near future. Pocket and car ashtrays remain available for free at the Bid during Bid office hours. The Bid will be at the native plant sale at the Welcome Center on September 27th, doing a native seed giveaway and guided tours of the planting at the lakefront at 9:30 and 11 a.m. No pre-registration necessary. The Bid Schumann Foundation grant for creating and revitalizing habitat at the lakefront will allow for the clearing of 2 of our biggest landscape beds in preparation for replanting next year. We'll be hosting community volunteer events on Saturday, September 27th and Saturday, October 11th for the bed clearing. Please consider joining us. The Bid is welcoming a new maintenance supervisor. Jonathan Aponte is a graduate in horticulture studies and will be leading the charge on maintaining the landscaping beds downtown at the lakefront. And finally, the Bid has appointed a new executive director. Sydney Schumacher has been with the Bid as a maintenance supervisor and grant program assistant, managing beautification and keeping American Beautiful and Schumann grants. She has a master's degree from Penn State University and has worked in higher education for 12 years. She'll be very excited to continue working with the community of Geneva. I had a pleasure of meeting with her today, just briefly, introduce myself, and she's really excited about taking over, so I think it's a good thing. And as you can see, Bid's pretty busy, and one other business is opening up. Ron Cicere's opening up the old Parkers in a sandwich shop, per se. And I know that his brother suggested possibly changing the motif in the front of the building.
I don't think it's pervy. Council Petropoulos.
Right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, the LDC did not meet, so that saves a little bit. But I do concur with both Councilors Brennan and Peeler that, in particular, I still stand in opposition to the size 15 foot and a size 9 boot crammed into a size 6 shoebox. So we'll see if Council does have that resolution on our table. And on that note, I would like to thank all the citizens of Ward 5 and all over town that came down to the Planning and Zoning Board meetings. The lesson learned is simple. Citizens can change opinion. And what I learned is if the county's going behind my back for something in Ward 5, I want to be there to hear it. So I'll be working on figuring out a tactful way to pull that off. Meantime, I met with the Parks Collective. Councilor Morocco was with me this past Saturday. We did talk about Clark Park. Drumstock again, that's going to be on Exchange in East Castle, September 6th. The next Coffee with Amy, I believe, is going to be September 16th at the Bizzuto Center from 6 to 7:30. Yes? Right. And let's see what else. Tentative town hall with wards 4, 5, and 6. I'm looking at the 27th of September at the library, but we have to figure all that out. I'll keep an eye on the Facebook page and look for posters. I'll put them up. Let's see. There's a little party at Clark Park, which is all the way at the end of. It's between Clark and Sweeney, the old ball field, and that starts at 1 p.m. That's Sunday the 28th. And let's see. Yeah, we are having a meeting for the potential development at the OEO site tomorrow. I'll be there. And finally, for those concerned about the project on the old foundry, the Jackson Street, there will be a community strategy meeting Thursday, the 11th September at 5:30 p.m. at the library. Other than that, you know where to find me. Keep those cards and letters coming.
Council Morocco.
It's been a long night. I'll try to make this quick. Amy covered the Dunkin' Donuts issue. She also covered the Cook property, so I don't have to say anything about that. There's a housing rehabilitation program out there. These are for low and moderate income housing. It's an assistance in providing, for housing repairs, roofs, whatever like this. This program is going away. It's a federal program. It's going away. It's first come, first serve, Amy. Is that what you said for those applications?
Yep, applications, the first deadline was August 29th, and so it is rolling. People can still apply, but once the funding is gone, the funding is gone.
So, and this, may I understand, it's a 100% deferred payment loan. No repayments are required, and the loan is forgiven after 5 years unless the property is sold or ceased to be a primary residence for single-family primary resident homes. The applications can be available, downloaded on the city website, cityofgenevanewyork.gov. And then I'd like to thank Amy for Coffee with Amy and stuff like this. She had department heads. The last couple we had our city clerk, we had Adam, and we had Pete from IT. I encourage people to go there because it's an open forum where if you want your questions answered, Amy can answer questions. These state department heads. We have our own little town halls there, and they've been getting a little bit bigger each time. We get more and more people there. And I find that afterwards people come and they, and the last one was actually with Amy, we only had a few people there, but they were happy that they can talk with an open forum and get answers that sometimes they're looking to get. So I encourage people to come to these. So Amy's got September 16th, Amy?
Yep, and it'll be with the assistant city manager.
Oh, okay, well, there you go. And there's other questions, whatever it is. And that's all I got.
Council Whitfield.
This Saturday, Unity Community Center is having a pig roast at 11 o'clock down at Galvin's Park. Everyone is encouraged to join. Also, I wanted to mention that I understand the passion of people when they talk about being hungry and homeless and things of that nature, but we have to remember to mention, to be able to be heard with a certain tone. I've myself always listen to this and always speak about it, you know, but in order for people to be heard, you have to present yourself in a different manner at times. Also, the gentleman was mentioning about garden apartments. We do thank Mr. Petropoulos for helping, Mr. Lavin for stepping in. Also, but there are also ways for people to help these individuals. Because right now it is a hardship. It is families who have no place to go still. So just help them and counsel them is enough to listen to them and see what their whereabouts are going to be or where they're going to end up. Just thinking about them at times and letting them know that you're there for them is enough as well. And that's the gist of everything I have for tonight.
Our city-county quarterly meeting got postponed. We'll be meeting on the 26th of September. School started today, so just you know, a little extra caution while you're out there. Kids, whether they're walking or the buses, do not pass buses when they're stopped, please. And you know, as I'm sitting here thinking about school starting and e-scooters and bikes, boy, I wish that the school district would not allow them, because if those kids are well off enough to have those, there's going to be a lot more traffic in that direction. So I'm curious, maybe just kind of reaching out to the school and seeing if they are allowing them things to be used to get the transportation to school. Lastly, 9/11. Our memorial service will be at 10 o'clock down at the lakefront in front of the 9/11 memorial. I invite everybody to come out. It will be a great event, usually is. It's well attended, and usually you'll see a lot of the fire and police department there representing well, along with some of the representatives and some good speeches. So please come out to our 9/11 ceremony at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'll need a motion to adjourn. Councilor Petropoulos eagerly, seconded by Councilor Morocco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.